Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to show number 259 of the Arc Junkies podcast. And in my opinion, this is a really cool episode, although obviously I'm a little biased. But joining me in studio today is one of my former students, Kyle Thompson. And conveniently enough, and not pre-planned at all, the day that this episode comes out will mark 8 years since Kyle started in my class. It was really cool catching up with him and hearing about his welding journey over the past 8 years. It's awesome to see the impact that I've had on so many lives during my short career as a welding instructor. And during this episode, you're going to hear some reoccurring themes that I've no doubt mentioned in previous episodes. But it's affirmation that these themes really matter when it comes to working in this industry. We'll get right into the episode right after a quick word from the folks that help to keep the lights on in the BuzzBox studio. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. If you're a maintenance welder, you know that making repairs is an essential part of your job. But let's face it, sometimes those repairs don't last as long as you'd like. That's where Rockmount comes in. Rockmount understands the importance of using high-quality rods and wires that can withstand the toughest conditions. That's why they offer a range of rods and wires specifically designed for maintenance welding. Rockmount products are formulated to give the best results so you can get the job done right the first time, every time. But it's not just about the quality of their products. Rockmount also believes in making it easier for their customers to get exactly what they need. That's why you can find a full catalog of all their products at rockmountwelding.com. Plus, when you use the code ARCJunkies10 at checkout, you can save 10% on all their abrasives, burrs, bits, blades, and welding chemicals. So the next time you need to make a repair, don't settle for subpar welding supplies. Choose Rockmount and weld with confidence. Make repairs that last with Rockmount Research and Alloys. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather. Based in Pasadena, Texas, Outlaw Leather is a family-owned business that provides top-quality welding and ironworker gear. They understand the unique needs of welders and ironworkers and developed a range of products that are functional and affordable. Head on over to outlawleather.com. You'll find all the brands you know and trust, like Flange Wizard, Irwin, Empire, Snake Belly, and many more. They also offer a range of customizable gear including welding hoods, bolt bags, rod pouches, work belts, arm pads, and tool holders. And the best part, all their products are available for fast and easy shipping so you can get what you need when you need it. And as a listener of the Arc Junkies podcast, you can save even more on your purchases. Just visit outlawleather.com and use Arc Junkies in the discount box at checkout to get 15% off all their in-stock leather goods. It's their way of saying thanks for listening and supporting the show. So don't wait. Head on over to outlawleather.com and get the gear you need to work at your best. And if you're local, be sure to stop in the storefront and say hi. Tell them the Arc Junkies sent you. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, so this is kind of a cool episode because with me in studio today is one of my former students, and we probably haven't spoke in person since graduation back in 2015. Yeah, I think we chatted a little bit, like via Facebook and stuff like that every once in a while, but you've had a pretty good run since you got out of school.
Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been everything I could have imagined it to be. From walking in your door that day and just, I mean, my welding experience when I walked in your door was zero, absolutely zero. The most I'd ever seen anyone weld was my dad fix an exhaust. So to go through the program with you and to have the hands-on learning that you gave me, it brought me to a level just in the class that set me up for a future where now I like to say I have a dream job at this point. But to get there was a journey.
Yeah. Everybody's got a journey. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And starting at, I mean, with zero, and then, learning, I think we did stick first.
Yeah.
Right. We started with stick and got your feet wet with that, and then went into the MIG stuff, and then got into some flux core. And I remember begging you to do TIG work. I remember begging you. I was like,
That's
please.
the carrot, man. You got to take the stick before you get the carrot.
And you kept holding it off too. You wouldn't let me do it. You just kept, no. And I was getting frustrated at one point. Like, come on, man. I know I'm going to be good at this. Just let me try. And you finally did, and that's where I found like the passion for it. Was just that, like the talent based, like, and that's what I look at welding is it's skillful and it's a talent based skill. Like you can get better. But if you have that knack for it, you can go real far with it and do just about anything you can imagine. So,
but then hard work will beat out, talent any day of the week.
Oh, absolutely. If you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't show up for work, one of my favorite sayings that you ever told me, which is really, it hits home now in the position that I'm in, is that you can be the best welder in the world, but if you don't show up for work, you're no good than the guy who, can't do anything.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Because you're not there.
You're not there.
That's my old foreman, Greg White, told me that. And
Really?
I think I just got out of the Marine Corps. It was the first job I landed out of the Marines. And we had this dude, Eddie. And Eddie was like, he was a jam-up iron worker. He's probably the best we had. But Eddie had a hard time showing up for work, trying to make 5-6 days a week when we're out there humping it. And I said, man, he was talking about letting him go. And I was like, you can't fire him. He's the best one we got. And like, you've heard the story. He's like, yeah, but he ain't worth shit to me if he's not here.
Right. And in like where I'm at now in hiring guys and bringing guys into the shop and being in charge of that, I have guys that come in and they'll take the weld test and they'll, blow me out of the water. It's just, wow, that's great. Like, I want to hire this guy. Like, he does A1 work. Hire him 3 or 4 weeks in, he's missed 4 or 5 days. He has yet to make a full 40, barely making a 40. Like, and then you have to go to the, like, what am I going to do here? How do I get this person to work a full week at least? And then eventually they just fall off. You got to cut the cord and bring someone in who, might not be as good, but they're there every day. They work their ass off every day, and they will get better. And that's that's how it works.
Oh, 100%. Especially in the real world. And that's what I was trying to instill in all the students that I ever taught, is attendance to the program is key, because, you've seen it. I'll cover something one day and it's not part of the curriculum. It's just something that comes up, a situation, and you miss out on that opportunity.
Right. And if you're not there, if you don't know what's going on in the shop, if you don't know what the person is doing before you or after you, or what the deadline is or anything like that, and you just show up and do your work and leave, and I'll leave early or I'll come in late, you're not going to make it. No. You're not going to be where you want to be personally, and you're going to let the people around you who are relying on you to get a job done down. Mm-hmm. And everyone fails at that point.
Yeah, and it screws up the whole flow of work.
Absolutely. And like what I'm in now is like production based. So if someone's not doing their job, there's $1 million boat at the end of the line that won't go out because this guy didn't show up for work for 2 days, or this project for Northrop won't get built because this guy decided he needed to leave early at 2:00 and not commit to what he signed up for. So yeah, that piece of advice that you gave me back in the school days was something I've kept with me every single day.
Good to hear it paid off. Like, something sunk in, man. There was times like there was. Because that was a big class.
Huge class.
25 students.
Was it? I thought it was more than that.
No, it was 25, and I was that was my second year teaching, and it was a rough go, and like trying to keep everybody. And there was only 10 booths, 10 welding machines.
Right, we were split.
Yeah,
it'd be 10 in and 10 in the classroom, and I think it was just you and Bill.
Yeah, but Bill came in kind of at the end.
Yeah,
but it was kind of like herding squirrels. You got half of them are out in the parking lot. I got to track kids down in the bathroom, playing on their cell phone all over the place. Oh, hanging out in the break room, and it's like, you got to get back to class. I need you to be here.
That was an eclectic group of people.
Oh, that was a very interesting group.
That group picture at the end.
A lot of personalities.
Oh, a lot of different personalities. Yeah. That for the most part, everybody got along. Mm-hmm. It was. There are friends that I've made in that class that like I'm still friends with to this day. Colin, Fisher. I was just in, Fisher started his own shop the other day. Yeah. I was over there checking it out. Like,
and then Honky went into business on his own too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of you guys that started your own businesses.
Well, we had a really good teacher.
Well, that's
we had somebody who really instilled some great things in us. So
put the foot to the ass a couple times.
A few times. I think it's kind of funny. They used to get on us for looking at Instagram welds and all this, and now
Now it's everywhere.
No, look at you.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you
Yeah,
all over
look
Instagram and all this stuff.
Well,
so.
there's a time and a place for it, but like,
Oh, okay.
if you're actively working, you snap a picture of your weld and stuff. I mean, that's something to be proud of. But I mean, like, there was some people that was like, hey, like, are you paying here? You're like, are you just hiding out from mom so you can come here and play on your cell phone, or are you like you actually want to learn a skill set?
Yeah. Well, I think the ones of us that did well and really truly committed to it, I think are pretty successful these days.
Oh yeah.
So people who stuck with it,
Yeah.
So.
I know Fisher. He worked at the same company from the time he graduated up until he started his own business.
Oh, he crushed it.
Yeah.
I worked with him for a little bit over there.
And now he's like buying equipment, like plasma tables and all kinds of stuff.
It's
really cool to
stuff.
see the progression. I got to stop by and see him.
Oh yeah. You should definitely stop by or have him on too. He'd love it. He'd love to.
Oh, it'd be a trip.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know him.
Yeah.
So.
And then Colin, I mean, he was he's an interesting character. Is he still welding?
From what I know, yeah, I think he's still doing ironwork down in like Miami somewhere.
Oh, very
down
cool.
there. Yeah, I think he's still in the weld game.
Yeah. I remember the whole time, like
with him.
The whole time that he was at welding school, all he wanted to do was build this bus. He wanted to like retrofit a bus and like drive across the U.S.
He did.
Yeah, I know, and he
did.
He married and he like got some chick involved in his crazy dream, and they made it a reality.
They really did, and it I don't know if you saw any videos or pictures of it, but
I've seen the bus. It looks pretty cool.
They killed it. It was absolutely beautiful when they were done. I think they might be living in North Carolina in it now. Like they bought some property up there and moved up there in it. So yeah, they're
Yeah, it was really cool to, like, that whole group, like I haven't forgotten a single one of my classes that I've taught.
That's awesome.
Over the past, 6 years. Like, luckily, not luckily, but I know there's a lot of other instructors that, they've been in the game 20, 25 years, and they're like, oh, yeah, I really don't remember you, bud. But, like, I pretty much remember all my students.
Well, that's
for the most part.
That's because you have a passion for it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you training others in something that you're passionate about.
Oh, 100%.
So that gives, that's that drive. That's why you are the teacher that you are. It's because of the passion behind it.
Yeah, I really miss it. It sucks that I got promoted into management and then just completely lost interest in being a manager of a program. I'd love to get back into teaching. Yeah. I mean, like I enjoyed the hell out of it. It might be my future, my near future.
Right. Well, one of the things that when we graduated and we left there, it was, I'm talking about passion, the passion you instilled in us to be good at what you do, be proud of your work, show off your work, take pictures of that stuff, tell your friends about it, like that you are doing something that people don't do. Not everybody can go do what welders and fabricators do. That's a trade skill. Was almost a lost skill at one point. People just weren't doing it anymore. So to be good at it, you become a valuable person. You become someone who is respected and looked at like that person has a skill and a talent on a level that other people don't. So when I left there and I got my first welding job, I walked in there knowing that I was good at what I did because I had the training behind me that, I never actually passed a welding certification in your class. No, I never did. Took a ton of them, but
I remember you taking them.
Oh yeah, I remember taking them. But you always were, no, your weld's a little too high here, or you got a little undercut there. Like I don't want to,
a bit of a dick.
I don't want to waste your money. Like I'm not going to send it in. And I just remember being crushed all the time because Colin's running around with like 13 certs and
he's golden arm.
Yeah, golden boy, right? And I was like, man, like I know this is good. Like I'm just not there, right? So when I got that first job and I go in for my first weld test, I'm nervous, right? I'm freaking out. I'm like, man, I couldn't even do this in school. How am I going to do this here? Blow it out of the water, right? Like, passed it. They bend test it. They etch it. They're like, all right, like you can play with this. And I was like, all right. So I get to work the next day when they hire me or whatever, and like all the stuff from you is like running through my head, like make sure you clean your metal, bring your get your temperatures right, like all this. And I get in there and it's a shop, like no offense to these guys, just kind of a shop full of goons. And I was just like, what's going on in here? Like people don't care. Like they're just sticking stuff together. I'm like looking at the quality of the welds and what they look like. I'm like, man, this is terrible. I just sat down and got to work. And next thing I know, they're like, well, hey man, like, can you build it? Can you build, they could just like, they started putting more on me. But unfortunately, like that little place I was at, because of, I think the quality of work probably before I got there kind of just, they tanked real quick. So I ended up at one point out of it, like right after I got into it. And I thought that, well, now what am I going to do? And I ended up at a screen manufacturer for a little bit, putting aluminum, like not even welding, like just screwing stuff together.
damn.
And I know, it's like, oh man, like, did I screw up? Like, did I just waste the last year, like learning to do this? But they actually had a welding division at this little screen place I was at. So about 4 months into the screen game, the guy who owns it comes up to me. He's like, hey, I heard you know how to weld. Do you mind? One of our guys didn't show up for work today. Could you help us out? Yeah, no problem. Did my thing and never went back to the screen shop again. They were like, all right, like, okay, we're gonna get you a table. We're gonna help you out. And so I started just doing all aluminum TIG work. That's all I did, was just build big fancy gates, cantilevers, mustache style swing gates, custom handrail stuff like that for this Sunrise Rails, who they were. They were a great company. The guys who owned it, Chad and Ken, they were really cool. They really saw the potential, but also the work ethic that went behind it. So
work ethics is huge. I mean, like we talked about that earlier, but like work ethics are like the biggest thing. Like when you get into it, like be proud of your work, show up on time, do a good job, do more than what you're asked for. And like you'll keep getting rewarded and more opportunities are going to come your way.
Absolutely. And if you see it, right? You see the people who don't care. So like you get, like when I got to the weld shop with them, there was 3 or 4 guys who were really good fabricators. The guy's name was Fido, and Fido could do anything you asked him to do. Like, I mean, just wow, right? And I just latched onto that guy. I was like, I got a little bit of training here because I think I'd only been out of school for like 6 months at this point. So I got a little bit of training. Now I'm gonna shadow this guy, right? And I started looking at what time he came to work, what his break style was, when he left work, what was his day like, right? And he was the lead fabricator in the place, and so just started shadowing him. I tried to beat him to work every day. That was my goal, right? Like I'm gonna beat you to work. Now he lived way closer than I did, so it was kind of unfair. I probably got a speeding ticket or 2 trying to do it, but the people above us saw that, right? And so they're like, "Hey man, like you're doing great. You're really getting stuff out, and here's an extra like couple bucks on your check," and just kind of build through there, and then you get a good rapport with people, and they trust you to build stuff. And I truly enjoyed working there. I really did. Man, that was awesome. That was a good time. From there, the next little journey I went on, I ended up in the heavy equipment industry after that, right? And that was kind of something that Colin, again, he was at this place, he's making good money. He was like really enjoying the work that he was doing, and he was like, "Hey man, I think you got what they're looking for. I'm leaving, and I want you to come in and see if you can't like replace me. I think you would be the perfect fit for it, right?" And I get in there, so I walk in for the weld test that day, and there's this old man, and this guy, his name was Brad. I don't know if you ever heard about Brad from talking to Colin or not, but
I think I heard about him from both of you guys.
Brad was. He was probably 69 or 70.
Damn.
When I met him. And this man, he could bend metal, he could fabricate, he could cut and plasma cut with a torch. I've never seen someone cut so smooth with a torch. I tried to like learn what he did. It was just unbelievable how he could do it. But I mean, he had 60 years of experience, 50 years, however, he'd done it forever. And once again, I saw him as a mentor, right? Like, okay, I'm about 2 years into it now, right? I'm like, okay, like we didn't do much bending in school.
No,
right? We don't get to mess with that kind of stuff.
We didn't have much equipment at all.
No, it was you're burning rods and that was about it, right? So in the gate place, that was cool, but everything was provided. Like they had a cut guy, they had bend guys. It was production based, right? So they were just feeding parts and we're putting them together, and we're kind of, getting to do some custom stuff to make stuff work. But for the most part, it's like a Lego set, right? You follow the blueprints, follow the drawings. It's pretty self-explanatory. Everything at the equipment place was full fabrication. Like you take this stick, bend it up, make it into what it's supposed to be. We got to replace this cage, or we got to build a new basket for this high lift, or, the top of a scissor lift got cut off by a bridge because the guy didn't put it down. We need to put a new one on there, right? And I walk in there, I'm like, I'm a good welder. I know I can weld. That's not the problem. Well, I've never done that before. I have no idea how to run a bender or like do the math. Like, and Brad sat there with me and worked through all of the math with me. He saw it. He was like, I am going to instill in you what he had. And that's another good, he almost reminded me of you, just an older version, maybe a little more crazy. I don't know. If you've spent time around Brad, you know what I'm talking about. And the things he would do and show me are things that even to this day, like I helped a guy today, like who was struggling out on the shop floor, trying to clamp something down. He couldn't figure out how to clamp something to the middle of the table to hold it down. And Brad showed me a trick like, I don't know, 5 years ago that, you do this, you set this little block up with a clamp this way and you clamp it over and it'll pin it down in the center, even though you don't have any way to get there. So just the knowledge I picked off of him mixed with the work ethic from Vito is in what you did as well, as just
put you ahead in your career.
It did. It like filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
Like what you said, like you can have all the talent, but if you don't have the work ethic, but there's still gaps in there, right? And that these people help fill those gaps for me to continue on my career. Because I had the passion of it. As soon as I started burning rods in your class, man, I loved it, right? I was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. And to get to work there for 4 years under Brad and have him teach me everything from using mills and lathes and press brakes and benders, every saw you can imagine, and then see the potential of what that place could have been. And then unfortunately we just I had an idea because Brad retired, right? And they left me like, do you want to run it? And I was like, yeah, like I know what I'm doing in here. I can run this shop. I've been here for 4 years. They hired me an apprentice. I, took him under my wing, tried to show him all the stuff Brad was showing me. And it got to the point where I was like, we can make parts for these machines where like, we don't have to.
You don't have to wait till there's a problem. You already got it on the rack.
We already got it on the rack.
Yeah.
Because I had a background in production already, and I kept trying to get them to do it, and they just wouldn't. They wouldn't take the bait, right?
The most common issues. Let's go ahead and prep ourselves up, and like in the slow time, like we know if a basket gets crushed, we've got top rails, mid rails, all these. This piece is already, all we got to do is just slap it and bolt it on and tack it on and send it out the door.
Right. And for the most part, they would let us, like, we build an extra basket or we build a couple hood pieces and stuff. But I mean, we have 5 locations all over the state. Having 1 or 2 extra baskets or have, just there was, and not only that, like you could have sold these parts to other competitors, because everyone uses the same machine.
Yeah.
So just kind of like I had an idea of where we could go. Management didn't really like what was going on, and so I ended up I left there, and I was I was mad at the world, right? I was like no one wants to listen to me. You know what? I'm going to start my own thing. Screw this, right? And so I did. I bought myself a Bobcat and threw it in the bed of my little F-150, and one thing led to another, and thank goodness like I had good connections from growing up, people who had equipment already, had businesses that stuff breaks, right? And you make, this person has a property management company, right? And they have 100 or so properties around the state that have railings and stuff like that need fixed. And I'd go out and I'd do that. And I did that for almost 2 years, doing that side business kind of thing. And it turned into a full-time business.
Yeah. And that's what Bill does a lot of is all that stuff. Doing work for property managers. That's where, when I was teaching over there at that school, for the 2 years that I was there, I was running that mobile welding business out of the back of my truck. And that's pretty much what I was doing, is hitting up, all the different apartment complexes over there at Sanford and, Orlando and Maitland and just that whole area right there, Central Florida, just going around, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just welding up handrails, gates, fabricating things, doing stuff on site. I mean, that's how I got into it, was through my network with Bill.
Right. And that's how it starts, right? It's like a natural progression. You start somewhere, right? I remember your setup in the bed of that Titan.
Yeah.
You're pulling out your welders and stuff. So when once again, like I thought back to Jason Becker, I was like, what would Becker do? Oh, that's right. He'd do this. And so I went, I've modeled a lot of my work off things I've seen you do, and how you operated and the way you carry yourself. That's just, You're a good mentor, man. You really are.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to get, I'm doing the business thing and I'm enjoying it, but man, running a business is hard.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
That's the fine print.
That's the fine print. They don't. Everyone shows you all the money you make, but
Yeah.
there's this other side to it that is if you're not ready for that and you don't have the right people around you to help guide you through that, you can end up in some sticky situations. You can end up
Really quick.
real quick. And thank goodness I never did. I had enough friends in the business world to walk me through it. But when you start looking at how many hours you're working and what you're doing, the money's great. You're making everything. You're head honcho. You're the guy calling all the shots, and you're also the guy cleaning up every mess.
Yep.
You're also the guy filling
First
out
one on speed dial.
Absolutely. You're like, I got a phone call one time, man. It was 3:30 in the morning, and I get a phone call from this guy, a friend of mine who does trucking, and he's broke. He broke the latch that you do the fifth wheel with. You pull on the back of the truck under it. He just, I don't know how, must have benched too much one day, but ripped it out, right? I'm like, oh, man. He was all the way on the other side of Paisley, and I was living, I'm living over in like Edgewater, New Smyrna area, and it's like 3 a.m, like all this, and gotta go, right? I mean, that's my guy. Like, he pays me well. Like, we have a good relationship. So, doing that for a while, but then, what happens? Like, sometimes, there's no business, right? You fix everything, right? And then you're trying to drum up more business, and it doesn't go so well. So I kind of weighed my options and what was I good at, right? And I really got tired of fixing old broken stuff. At the end of the day, that's what did it in. I was like, man, I'm tired of being covered in rust and grinding all this. Like, I'm like, people are asking me to fix stuff that looks like it came off the bottom of the ocean, and like, man, like, you got to build a new one.
Work with some new material.
Yeah, you got to build some new stuff here, guys. You can't just keep
putting Band-Aids on.
Like, I'm looking at all the other welds that like all the other welders did before me, and I'm like, guys, like, might as well build a new one at this point. No one ever wants to spend the money, right?
Nope.
So
it'll be cheaper in the long run too. Everybody wants to, spend a dime to save a nickel.
that's right. And then what happens? It breaks again because you can't get a good weld on it because there's 37 other welds on top of it. You grind down, you got 2 inches of weld you go through. But so after that, I kind of had a little bad taste in the mouth from running my business. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to keep fixing broken stuff. I was just over it. And an opportunity arose around from where I live. A guy asked me to build a part for one of his boats one day. It was a little grab bar kind of deal. And he wanted to like a little kick bend in it and stuff like that. I didn't have a bender. So I was sitting on Google, and I Googled like fab shops near me. Like, where can I go, like, find somebody, like talk him into like letting me go in there real quick and just like bust out 2 little bends, pay I'll pay whatever. Just, I need to put some bends on this. And I find out that, 300 yards from my house, there is a welding shop. And I'm like, oh, no kidding. All right, well, I walked over there with a stick of metal over my shoulder. Like,
they can't turn me away if I got the material in my hand.
I got it. Like, look, and I walk up, and I talk to this guy, and his name's Trenton, and I explained to him like what I'm trying to do, and he's like, oh yeah, no problem, man. And I see, like, man, they got everything in there. In the shops I'd been in before, they had this but not that, or they had this and maybe missing this. And I just see it like heaven, right? Heaven for a welder fabricator. Just like, man, they got everything. And so I'm standing there and I'm looking around, and one of the guys walks out, and I talk to him for a little bit and asked me if I weld. I'm like, yeah. And they asked me if I was there for a job, and I told them no at this point. And I was like, no, I'm just kind of trying to get this job done. And then I think I left, and about a week or so later, I just had a terrible day. Just a bad day. Like, whatever, I was trying to fix something or repair, or like a gate or something, and everything was breaking. I couldn't get the machine to run right. It was just like the tips were all fucked up, and I could not, and I didn't have another one in my truck, and it was a frustrating day, right? So I leave the job, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna stop in here. And I did. I stopped back at that weld shop, and I walked in there, and it's like, hey, you guys hiring? Like, I'm frustrated. I'm absolutely frustrated. And I didn't tell them that. In my head, I'm frustrated. And they're like, yeah, you just got to fill an application. I'm dirty. You know, I got my high vis on. I got my, boots all over. And I'm just covered in dirt and
Look
rust.
like a welder.
I look like a welder. Look like I've been working all day, right? And so I come back next day. I talk to the manager guy, and he asked me to fill out an application, and I was like, yeah, I did. And he's like, do you have a resume? I was like, no, but can you just let me take the weld test? I did.
Let's just skip all the pleasantries.
At this point, like I knew what they did. I knew what my skill level was, and I was like, I know I can walk it. I'm going to be fine, right? You don't need to worry about my resume. I promise. He believed me. He walked me down there. I took the weld test, did it. It was they had you build like this box deal, right? So it was like if it was a fab shop, so they give you a drawing of a box. They ask you to cut all the metal, get all there's different welds you set up. I think there was like a fillet you run, and then it was corner to corner, and then a butt weld, and I think there was a T-joint on there too. And you build this whole little doohickey thing, right? And I did it. I'd done about 20 minutes, knocked it out, set it on the table. They're like, all right, we'll call you and let you know. I walked out. About 25 minutes later, they call me. They're like, you got the job. Like, when can you start? And I was like, what are you about pay? It's like, well, we'll pay you what you're asking. I'm like, all right. Sweet, man. Like, I'll come in. Like, not a problem. So I was there the next day, and they had me, man, I started at the bottom in that shop. Like, they put me on the...
Put them on the saw.
Pretty much. I mean, pretty much, hey, like, cut this material. Like, here, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? And like, the whole time, I'm like, dude, I just, like, crushed this weld test, right? And, like, how do I... Like, what's going on here? Like, I thought I did good. You guys called me immediately, and you got me basically sweeping the floor. Very confused. And man, this comes back to everything that you guys taught me. All the people in my life who showed me the right way to do things, showed me how to, be the person who shows up every day, be the person who does more than they're asked. Be the guy with the work ethic, not just the talent. Like, you can have the talent, but if that work ethic doesn't match, you are not going to go anywhere. So I put all of that, like, heart and soul, everything that I could think of into it up there. And I was the first one there every day. I stayed late. I built stuff, anything anyone asked me for, anything. It didn't matter. I'd sweep the floor. I'd run the most beautiful weld you'd ever seen over here, or I'd just go do some nasty steel work over here. Like, it didn't matter. I knew it was somewhere that was right for me. So I'm there, and I'm around all these guys, and everyone in that shop at the time when I got there, they were experienced, good fabricators. There wasn't anybody in there. I'm watching these guys work. This one guy, I remember looking at his welds and being like, wow, I suck. I do. Wow, holy shit, man. Like, how do you do? And welders are secretive, right? Yeah. Like, they're not gonna
show you.
They ain't gonna show you anything. Like, oh yeah, or you'll do something good and you'll show like one of the older guys or something who's been there a while. And get that the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
that sucks, man. And I'm like, what?
It's the best weld I've ever produced.
Like, what?
Get that trash out of here.
Get that trash out of here. I'm like, okay, well, I was gonna do better now. All right, fine. So I'd sit there and I'd work and these guys, they just gave me all this shit all the time for like, I'm thinking I'm doing good, and they're just, no, not good enough. Well, what we're doing up there it's pretty cool stuff, man. So I work currently I'm at with Doherty Manufacturing over in Edgewater, and we encompass so much stuff. We do truck beds for F650s and big aluminum crazy style truck beds. They're beautiful things. We got government contracts. We do theme park stuff. Got a bunch of guys up there actually did the Star Wars.
Cool.
For Disney.
Yeah.
They built it in house and then shipped it out, and then guys out there installed it. They did a bunch of Northrop jobs. Anything you can think of that this company does, right? They have their hands in everything.
You guys do boats too, right?
Yeah, so that's the other side. Soulless boats is the other thing, and that's what piqued my interest in the whole deal is the boat side of it. Because I remember being in your class, And I remember I'm begging you to do the TIG stuff, and it was aluminum TIG that I wanted to do because I knew I wanted it to be like marine fabrication is what the passion behind everything was. Like, how do I get to that? And I would do jobs for people on the side and stuff like that, but I never could. And it's hard to be a marine fabricator. The level of welding involved with that aluminum that's some of the best aluminum welding you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, a lot of times, I mean, like that sets the boat apart from anything else. You know, like the tuna towers, the rails, like all the detail that goes into it, all that fine stainless and aluminum work is what kind of sets that boat off and makes it pop. All that anodized aluminum work and everything, like the weld's got to be on point. You can't have a shitty fit up because, you know, especially on like high end stuff, they've got guests or clients or, you know, and then they get on the boat or whatever and they're like, handrail's crooked. Like, I mean, it's even obvious to some of the people that aren't welders and fabricators. Like, this shit's got to be on point.
Absolutely. And so as, you know, I went there thinking it was a weld shop, right? And then I find out about all this boat stuff. And now I'm extra in heaven, right? Now I'm like, oh my God, like this is meant to be, right? It's right around the corner from my house. Like, I'm going to give it everything I got here. And when you talk about like the marine welding aspect of it, you know, people's hands are, you're holding on to a grab rail and your eyes are right there, right? So if that looks like crap, and no one's going to pay the money for that, especially when you're talking 1.5, $1.2 million for some of these boats. And they are luxury offshore boats. That's what they are. And they are, if you don't approach the work that we're doing with that mindset and you just think it's, you know, it's whatever, because I'm sure you've seen it. Like, you've been you know,
Been in a lot of different fab shops, and it's just like, yeah, it'll hold.
Hold.
Looks good from my house.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Some paint will cover that up.
Yeah.
No big no.
Grinder and paint.
Fix the welder you ain't,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. So with that mentality, you just can't fail. Like, you grind it off and do it again. You grind it off and do it again. Like, until it looks like it should look. Or you throw it out and you start completely over again. By the time those guys who dogged me so much, like, got me like to that level, I was appreciative of it at the end, right? And I was like, okay.
You kind of understood the method behind the madness.
Right. I'm starting
No wonder, like, everything I was giving you wasn't good enough, because it wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough. I mean, and it kind of knocked me down a little bit, right? Because I'd been, you know, this good guy here, this good guy here, you know, kind of one of the upper guys for a while. And then you get knocked down and you're like, no, man, like, try again. And you're kind of like taken back. You're like, well, what? It just steps your game up, right? Like, that's where the talent mixed with work ethic really kicks in, because now you are forced to either step up or move on, because you're not going to make it in the shop. And thank goodness that, like, I decided to step up and keep going, because where it's led me now, in the position I'm in now, like I said, it's like a dream job for me. So, you know, few months goes by, and all of a sudden all those guys that were in there, and they all leave. They left, like, gone. And we're down to 5 guys in that shop. It was me, Alex, Stephanie, and Frank, and Noah. That was our crew. And out of those guys, like, Noah was like an apprentice, basically, like, just got into welding, never welded before. I was teaching him on my break, like, how to, like, do stuff. Alex, great fabricator, actually was a doctor in Russia at one point.
Jeez.
Yeah. And came over here, immigrated here like 10 years ago, learned to weld. Amazing fabricator. Dude can build just about anything. And Stephanie and Frank, we do a bunch of custom stairs. So I don't know if you've been to, like, a boat dealership, but, like, the stairs you walk up to, I can almost guarantee you they came out of our shop. Like, all over the country, we make these things. They're beautiful. And that's their bread and butter. They basically run their own little company back there. And the guy who owned the company, Steven was stressing, because he's like, well, I just lost the guys who are, like, the fabricators, right? Like, the guys who are doing this. And I remember my boss at the time, Brett, he comes to me and he's like, can you build this? I was like, yeah. And we're talking, like, upper station, like, pretty, like, in the upper stations we have, they actually fold and collapse and come together. So it's not like one where it just folds back. It's actually 2 sections that are about 6 feet tall that have fire hose connections, and they fold out like a butterfly, like wings, and then they fold back together. And it was like one of the most complicated things that like I was shadowing somebody like learning how to build them, and then that guy leaves, and so now I'm left with, hey man, you got to finish this, and I'm like, well, okay, like not like every bit of everything from learning stuff with Brad, learning stuff from Vito, like bouncing ideas off Alex, looking at like videos on YouTube and like thinking about all the way back to school about how fit ups and heat and all that stuff works. Man, I produced one. Right? I built this one, and I remember like kind of back against the wall, and everyone kind of being like, "Oh, we're good. Like we're not screwed. Like we have somebody in here who can do it." And it just takes all of that training and like if you would ask me to do that right after school,
Oh, you'd have been fucked.
Fucked. I might as well walked out with the other guys, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the journey leads you like down a path that, you know, you can pick up things along the way, right? You as long as you keep an open mind and you listen to the people, you don't ever think that you know more than the guy next to you. Like let them show you, or even if they don't want to show you because, you know, welders are secretive, like just watch. Just pick up what you can, see what they're doing, like learn everything you can every day, learn something new.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee that there's been somebody else who has either fought that fight or struggled through that problem, and they know a way to fix it. But you have to ask. You can't just think you know everything. You won't succeed.
No, not in this industry.
Absolutely not.
People will sit back and watch you struggle intentionally
Oh yeah.
because you're cocky. Okay, you figure it out. Whereas like that old man on the other side of the shop, the guy with the gray hairs, go in there, make him your best friend, bring him a breakfast sandwich, you know, hang out with him, talk with him, you know, hey, how's your day going? You know, just ask him, you know, random shit and like become friends with him, and they will show you everything you need to know to where you don't have to struggle every day when you go into work.
No. And that's, I thank my lucky stars every day that I got to spend 4 years with Brad, because without him, I don't think I would be where I am now, because just the problem solving that man would come up with, like, not saying he did it by the book every time, because I mean, there was some,
Well, it's not always in the book.
it ain't always in the book.
Ain't in the book.
Oh man, did he do some sketchy things sometimes?
I think Colin texted me one time or sent me a picture or video, and he's like, you got to see this guy at work, Brad. He's over here welding with no hood on.
Every day. And he said his glasses were special glasses, but Brad was Brad, and
Pugs from 7-Eleven.
I don't. He bought them off QVC. They were UV things. But you know, besides his lack of safety knowledge, the man taught me so much, right? And the people before him, yourself, like. So when push came to shove and I had to step up to be like, this company was relying on me to do this, I was able to do it, right? And it showed them that they'd made the right choice. They had put their faith in the right person. And I just took it and ran with it, right? And they didn't really ask me to do it, but I just started kind of like, hey, you do this, you do this, I'm gonna do this over here. And I remember they're looking for like a lead. I remember they came in one day and they're like, does anyone in here, like, we'd made some new hires. They brought some more people in and they weren't that great. You know, when anyone does like a mass hire event and they're just trying to bring bodies in,
it
like,
never works out.
It doesn't, right? And you might get one or two, you might get a diamond in there, but let's say you hire 5. Out of the 5, one guy stays.
You might get one, and they might stay.
They might stay, right? Yeah. And you lose the rest. So that we did that, kind of burned through some people, got a couple people in that were good after we kind of like revised our hiring process. And then they were like, well, you know, I remember Brett walks in and he goes, does anyone here want to be a lead? Like, anybody? You know, hand went up, right? And I was like, I'm already kind of doing it. Like, might as well. You know, how do I, you know, I'm still working, I'm still welding, I'm still fabricating. We had a new boat come out. They had to build new prototype pieces for it. Alex was too busy doing outside projects, like, you know, because Doherty Manufacturing does all that other outside stuff, the truck beds and the government contracts and the theme park rides and aeronautic stuff. And then we're trying to build all this boat production stuff over on this side of the shop. So Alex is taking care of this, and I was like, you keep doing that. You keep that show running. My production background is going to come in handy here. We're going to set this up so we can click off parts. So, you know, in production, you can't have the same guy walk over to the rack, take it off, walk to the saw, cut it, walk to the bender, bend it, cope it, tack it, weld it. That's your whole day.
Yeah.
Now you've built.
You got one part done.
You got one part done.
Yeah.
That does not work, right? And that's how they were operating before. So I was like, this isn't going to work. So when they kind of were like, all right, well, lead it a little bit. Let's see how you do. I put that in place of, you know, we're going to cut all these parts. Then we're going to, you know, make it a manufacturing process, right? Like that's what we're supposed to do.
Streamline this bitch.
Exactly. Like let's quit fucking around here and let's make it how it should be. And when it started clicking, they were like, okay, like, we're going to send you the new hires, right? So I know you got to remember, I got hired there in August of 21. August of 21, I got hired there. So this is February, March-ish at this time frame now, where it's like, okay, like we're going to give you the keys a little bit, but like, we're still going to like, you know, need to be home by 10. You know, daddy's watching, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's see how this works. And they started kind of giving me a little more, and we got some good people in. We hired some real good guys, and I was able to get everyone kind of on the same page of like, you know, this is what we're looking for. And when I would talk to these guys when they'd come in, it was, you have to understand what we're doing, right? So marine fabrication, these are $1 million boats. Your weld needs to look like it's $1 million weld. And if it's not, then this isn't the right place for you. And it helped that I spent the time learning how to make that $1 million weld before I was trying to tell someone else
how to do it.
Because no one will respect you if you don't know what you're talking about, right? If you don't know the processes or what you're trying to accomplish, you're just someone who comes in from a different industry, but you have a management background. So, oh yeah, well,
or a degree,
or a degree. Yeah, those are my favorites. And you know, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do this. I'm going to tell you how to do your job, but I've never done your job before. But I'm going to tell you how to do it. No, like that's not going to work.
Yeah,
that
you can't respect people like that.
Yeah, you're gonna get pushback. You know, screw you. I'm not. You know, whatever. But because I was able to say, hey, I'm going to do one, right? I'm going to run a bead, and then you're going to run a bead, and can you match that? It kind of made the hiring process a little better, right? And I was able to weed out the wrong people and find the right people and get them in. And then, so about 3 months of that, still working in the shop, still welding, still building all the parts. They come to me and they're like, we're gonna promote you to supervisor of the weld shop out here. Like, here's your desk and a computer, and you need to manage, and you need to hire a replacement for you in the shop who can do everything that you do, and then you need to manage it, right? So I go from sweeping the floor in August, basically, like just doing the dirty work, to August of next year, I'm running the whole show, right? And if it wasn't for, you know, you can be the best welder in the world, but if you don't show up, you know, it started there. And if it wasn't for learning and trying and just being willing to fail and then come back and then fail again and then come back and fail again over and over to where you just don't give up, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. That's why I say I have a dream job. I get to oversee these beautiful metal structures come to life for these boats and for these projects that are, you know, going all over the world. Like we just did this one for Northrop that, like, I don't even know really what it did. It was some government classified deal, but like it was getting shipped off somewhere, right? And to know that like you had a hand in that, right? It's a great feeling. And it all started because, well, I wanted to learn how to weld.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right?
So, and there's a sense of pride that comes along with that. You're like, you'll see it, man. Like you'll eventually have a wife and kids, and like you'll be going down the road. You'll be like, you see that boat? Like, I built that. Or you see this? Like, I did that. That handrail over there? I built that.
Oh, I mean, I definitely tell girls that, like, yeah, you know, I built that over there. You know, oh, you see that over there? I helped build that.
Yeah, I built that.
Yeah. What are the Advent Health has like sales on the front of their buildings. One of the original companies I was at, they got contracted through them to build the big metal aluminum sails. So every Advent Health you see in Florida, if it's a new building in the last 5 years, yeah, I built that. I built that big sail on the side. Yeah, exactly. It's a great feeling. I love what I do. It's been a journey, At one point I was like, is this even
Oh,
right?
you're just getting started, dude. What are you, 7 years in now?
8
years?
I walked through your doors 8 years ago next week.
Damn. Oh, you got it on a calendar and shit.
Absolutely. It changed my life. I mean, it really did. Like I was before walking into your classroom that day, like I had no job. I was like doing things and just not being who I knew I could be. Just, whatever, like, oh, fuck it. Like, and then you guys gave me a sense of purpose, basically. Like, this is how, if you put the work in, you can do this, right? You just have to put the work in. Don't go sleep in your booth. Don't put your headphones in. Put your safety glasses on. God, if I hear, oh my God, if anyone I work
Guilty
with,
as charged.
if anyone that I work with hears this, I want you to know that Jason Becker has yelled at me to put safety glasses on for 8 years.
Oh, that's me. Yeah.
Because
That's my pet peeve, man.
oh man, do I get yelled at still?
We had
Still
it. So,
get-
and where that came from, there's this dude, Dave Smith. We called him Big Dave back when I was working with the iron workers. And I was in the shop one day and I'm working and I'm welding and I flip up my hood. I'm like, Dave, you got to come over here and check this weld out. And he looks right at me and he goes, put your fucking safety glasses on or you're going home and don't come back. Check. Didn't even look at the weld. I was kind of pissed off about that. But like that was the thing. It was like it became that serious of an issue to where I didn't want somebody like, so that's why I passed that information on and I was such a hard ass about it. There's a lot of companies that you can get by without safety glasses. But I beat safety into y'all's head just for the simple fact that if you go onto a job site, you're safetied up. Like you don't have any bad habits. You can learn them somewhere else. So if you already have it ingrained, wear your safety glasses. So you're not going to get popped the first couple days you're in the shop, because you don't have that lackadaisical attitude about safety when you roll in there. You can kind of like relax a little bit, depending on the environment that you're in. But, if you go into a shop where, like they're very strict. I mean, there's a lot of companies here just in Central Florida that safety glasses, earplugs. I mean, I worked for one company that if you had to use a cutoff wheel or a grinder, if you had to use a grinder, the material had to be clamped or like permanently affixed to where it's not going to go anywhere. But you had to wear your gloves, safety glasses, goggles, and a face shield and hearing protection. So, I mean, just to operate a grinder. And so like I beat that into y'all's head. That way, if you get on a job site, you don't get caught slipping. Because I've seen guys on job sites, they got sent home and never came back. For like
safety violations.
For safety violation. Yeah, this is your first warning is what you get like day one of orientation. This is your warning. If you get caught, once you cross over that gate, you're out of here. And you're blacklisted for 6 months. You're not coming back on a job site.
Wow. Yes. And yeah, I need to be better about that. I do. But for the most part, it is, you really, you work in this industry. Like I said, I've only been in it 8 years, so I'm not like as tenured as I'm sure a ton of more people than me are, but I've already seen, a cut wheel bounce back and get a dude across the chest. And like, that was pretty gnarly to see that. And like, I actually crushed one of my fingers not long ago. Had a piece of metal move in a saw and it pinched my finger in the backstop and it popped it like a cherry. And it happens so quick that if you can lose your life doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's especially, certain different industries, not so much maybe what I'm in, but there are a lot of people in the welding industry that, go to work one day and they don't come home. And that's because they lax on the safety stuff. You get caught slipping and it can be your leg, it can be your arm, it can be your life. So
yeah. Safety's freaking huge, man. That's why I always preach that, like from the time that I got into education until, even when I go back and do like weld certs, like I'll ride the kids, like, if I catch them slipping, like go put your safety glasses on, take your headphones out, like all that shit. Because it matters once you get on the job site.
Yeah, it really does.
And nobody sees that in a classroom setting. While you're out there, it's like same shit, different day. I'm just going to go to my booth and I'm going to weld. I'm going to do this, like what's going to hurt me? Like you don't have any exposure into this industry yet.
Yeah, that you don't know what's really going to hurt you.
You don't know what's coming.
Yeah,
so
let an I-beam fly through the air or something, or, not fly, but like if they're craning one, you're not paying attention, like it's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. You're going to learn real quick.
I had a buddy that damn near lost his foot because they ship out T-beams. And a T-beam is nothing more than an I-beam that's been like split down the center. They make like a couple relief cuts, but once you get it to where, its final destination, you cut a couple small sections out and then boom, you got 2 T's. Well, because they cut it with a torch where it was manufactured, it's got stress built up in it. So once you relieve that stress by cutting out the other pieces, it separates with force.
Yeah.
Because it's been under tension for so long. It's just like waiting to release that tension. And it slid off they were cutting on a sawhorse, and it slid off the sawhorse when it opened up, and it landed on my buddy's foot.
It happens that quick.
Yeah, and it's just boom.
Yeah.
Like you don't expect that to be coming, once you cut through there with the cutoff wheel, you don't expect that to happen.
No, not at all. It's you can get in some sticky situations real quick if you're not paying attention in this industry. Yeah. And as all the all the cool stuff you build and all the fancy things that like you get to you build race cars or you build skyscrapers or you're on the pipeline or you're underwater or you're doing the marine industry stuff. Every bit of that has its own level of danger to it, right? Where get caught slipping, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things I probably said it in your class. Like all the tools that we deal with, they cut, shape, and form metal. So if you think about it, what's it going to do to your hand? What's it going to do to your leg? What's it going to do to your eye? Or, any other appendage you get caught between that and where it's supposed to be doing the work.
No, those machines have no sympathy for you.
They've got no feelings. And that was the thing I learned when I used to steal swimming pools when I was a kid. Not like theft, but like we call it stealing a swimming pool. Is where like you would dig out the swimming pool, like the hole.
Okay.
And then you take the rebar and then you drag it out and you shape all the rebar around the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. That way that you put like this, what the hell is it called? Like there's a matting, like a steel matting.
Yeah, the lace of the rebar and all that.
So you lace all the rebar, but there's like this paper with wire mesh, tacked to it.
I know what you're
talking about. You wrap that around the pool, and then you bring in all the rebar, and you make the shape of the pool. And then the gunite guys come in there, they shoot with gunite, and they clean it all off. Well, I was working with this old timer Felix, and he was like, I'm a man, like I'm 14, 15 years old, like, doing this freaking rebar. And he told me, he's like, be careful, like that rebar, it doesn't have feelings. And that kind of stuck with me the rest of my life. Okay, these tools, the stuff that I'm working with, it doesn't care if I get hurt or not. Mm-mm. It's just going to, do its thing.
Yep.
So you got to be situationally aware of what's going on with you, what equipment you're working around, the guard's in place for a reason. I'm huge, like, you guys know, I'm huge, like, put a guard on the grinder. Don't take the guard off. Put the handle on the grinder, like all that stuff. And it's there for a reason because I've seen these accidents. And it's not something like these half-ass ways of doing things. And like, oh yeah, the last shop that I worked in, we didn't use grinders. Like, I'm not transferring that into an educational setting because this stuff can literally hurt, maim, kill.
I got some guys right now that they come from a shop that, let's just say, they don't really follow much safety things, right? And I'll see them sometimes out doing things in the yard because they're my steel guys. Because there's a lot of steel work we do. So I got aluminum guys, I got steel guys, I got TIG, I got, everyone kind of does their own thing. And I watch my steel guys just do some sketchy stuff sometimes. And I'm like, guys, you got to stop. I know you did this here. You can't do this here.
But you're here now.
You cannot, I cannot watch you guys like sit on the side of an I-beam to try and get it to pick up in the air while you're using a forklift. I'm like, no, stop.
Just, so we can move the beam because we didn't pick it up quite centered. So if we lean on this side hard enough.
There you go.
Yeah, so we can drive it from
point
A.
In your head.
I've fucking dealt with steel for the past 20 years of my life.
You know exactly what that is.
I've been the jackass on the side of that I-beam.
Exactly. And I'm like, no, stop. We'll put that back and we'll just
get a choker, find center.
And we're going to move it. And then you're going to be done. And everyone gets to go home. So being the guy now who has to walk around and tell people to put their safety glasses on and tell people to be safe. And I am in charge of making sure these people go home to their families at night. And it can be stressful.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot. It's not something you think about when you get in. I was good at my job. I put in the effort and the work to get in the position that I'm in. But you start looking at all the other aspects of being in charge of a group of men for their safety, their well-being, their paychecks, and everything else. Like, if you don't care, like, you have to have a level of caring for them that if you don't, then you're not cut out to be that person that's leading
that's your
them.
team,
right?
You gotta look after your team.
Absolutely. You got to be. I've also been blessed in going through this industry is like I've had bad supervisors. Like, I've had people who are just, just dicks for no reason. Like they're more of interested in being a boss, a power kind of deal. Like, I told you to do this and you didn't do it. And like, that. And I've had people like yourself and the other guys I've mentioned who are leaders, right? They want to lead you, like, here, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you why this is wrong and that's right, or this and that. And where I'm at now is like, make sure I remember being a leader is different than being a boss.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy out there with my thumb on somebody telling you, get this done. Get this project needs to be done 2 days ago. Why isn't it? You know what? Go the fuck home because you can't get this job done. I'm going to find somebody else to do it. How can I help you get that job done? What can I do to make you more successful in your position? I try to look at myself as like, I might be the boss or the supervisor, but I'm working for you. Like, what do you need? What can I order from the welding supply company to make your day better? And if you say no, I ain't got nothing. Well, I might just go get you something. Like, hey man, I got these gloves for you, man. They help you or not? Just trying to show that I have their back, right? Yeah. I am like interested in their success and their well-being. And one of my favorite things I'm able to do is like when like the opportunity does arise and I can give someone a raise, like that's the best feeling in the world. And I learned that like early on in the position, like, well, that's way better than firing somebody.
Oh yeah.
Firing somebody
sucks.
Sucks, dude.
I hate firing people, especially good people.
Good people who messed up, right? Or like, they had skills. I don't have a problem firing someone.
Everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've fired a lot of people that, yeah, you're not fucking cutting it.
You suck, dude.
Yeah, you got to get your shit together and come back.
You got to leave. But when you let someone who's good go, the other bad feeling is when you have a good guy and they leave.
Yeah.
Like, I just had a guy leave for the pipeline, and I don't fault him for it. He's a young kid. He's 20. In welding school, this kid is like I mean, he was like a Colin, right? Had certs out the ass. Basically, he'd show up to school, weld a little bit, and leave because he was working in my shop to like get shit done, right? Like he'd call the instructor and be like, "Hey man, like I gotta get this project done," and they'd let him stay because I can't even describe the talent this kid had. Pipe welding alone, like that's what he wanted to do. And I knew one day it was gonna happen. I knew one day he was gonna be like, "All right, I'm leaving," and he did, and man, it hurt because you work with him for so long, and I'd go out there and I'd show him every little trick I could because I just saw this 20-year-old version of myself who had the drive and the talent and everything, like showing up early, staying late, begging for more work. He wouldn't take a break. On his breaks, he would pull out whatever process he wasn't good at and just practice. And like no one else in the shop is doing that.
Don't say.
Yeah, right? Imagine that, right? 20-year-old kid, right? Like, and yeah, he left. He just left for the pipeline. Man, it sucked. I was like, oh. I told him, I was like, I'm not going to try and persuade you because I knew that's what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But when you get cold in North Dakota in January, you give me a call because I'll take you back.
Come on back down to sunny Florida. You get a job.
Come on back down to Florida where it's nice and warm. But I like seeing people's progression. I love now getting to watch these people grow and become better at what they do and challenge them a little bit. Like, you did great with this project. Now I'm going to give you this. Like, it's rewarding, right? And I almost feel a little bit like yourself, like teaching a class sometimes where I'm like, hey man, you want to try this? Oh, you got it? Hell yeah, dude. You crushed it. Mm-hmm. I walk around all day, like looking at welds like, oh, hell yeah, man. Like, that looks good. That looks like shit.
Do it again.
You got to fix that, right? Yeah. But this one over here, that one's really fucking good. This one sucks. So like, let's fix that. But I love it. I miss welding. I'll tell you that because I answer emails all day now and make sure everything's right and make sure our production schedule's on track and we're not missing parts for boats and making sure this project gets done on time so this goes out the door and all that. And sometimes, man, I wish I could put my hood down and just put my headphones in and just
go back at it.
Just let me just weld these like 40 things. And then I think about it, I'm like, I really do love what I do. So I truly feel blessed that I get to wake up every day with a smile on my face because I love what I do. And I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't get to say that without walking through your classroom door, 8 years ago next week.
Yeah, 8 years ago next week.
So, man, it's been a journey. It's been fun. I've got to see a lot of different sides of this industry, from heavy equipment to production to running my own business for a little bit to being the guy sweeping the floor and the bitch work and all that. And then now being the management side of it and how to run a weld shop and how to make sure you have material and all the other things in a short period of time. And to go from nothing to this is a pretty incredible journey. If, you know, I look back and think about it.
Yeah.
Man, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. I get students asking me all the time. They're like, hey, like what process should I work on? You know, what industry should I get in? I don't know, man. I can't help you out. Like I can help you find a job at a welding school. I mean, that's what I did. I always tried to help, you know, line students up with employers.
Mm-hmm.
And so just go out there and hit up an industry. Like, see if you like it. Figure out which welding process you're good at, which one you like, and then go find an industry that does that. Go find, you know, a job that does that. And I guarantee you, you're not going to walk out of welding school and work for one company for the next 20, 25 years and retire. You're going to go to several different industries. You know, like I've done everything from fabrication to ironwork to ornamental, you know, heavy duty construction, equipment repairs, like all kinds of different shit. Like I've done, you know, very similar to yourself. I've done a little bit of everything.
Right.
But, you know,
You did a lot more than just a little bit.
Well,
of
yeah,
everything.
I've done a little bit. I dabble. I dabble.
You got
well.
like 30 years on me.
Yeah, well, but you'll see that. Like, I didn't just like stick with the same company that I started with right out of high school. Well, I joined the military, but like even after the military, like I didn't stick with the same company. You're gonna bounce around until you find like, okay, this is where I belong. This is where my passion is. This is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. And you're gonna have to eat shit along the way. And you're going to meet a lot of mentors, you know, very similar to what you did. You know, you found that old guy in the shop that was experienced and you kind of emulated what they did. You mocked what they did. Like if you get to the shop at 7, I'm going to get here at 6:45. Oh shit, you're here at 6:45, I'm going to here at 6:30. Like you learn that stuff as you go through the industry. And then, you know, next thing you know, you're running work.
Right. And for like a young kid coming out of school right now, I'd say just, you know, do the things that maybe aren't welding related, but do what you can control to the best of your ability, right? Show up early, stay late, work hard, you know, take the extra step, learn, don't, you know, listen more than you talk. Like that kind of like mentality will get you where you want. You just have to understand there's no quick way to do it. You're not going to walk out of welding school, even though you have 12 certifications and you know everything in the book, and walk into a job and be like, I want, you know, $40 an hour and I want to, you know, be the lead and I want to do this. Well, you still got to put your time in, right? No, like,
go grab that broom.
Go grab that broom, right? You know, go wrap up these extension cords and I need you to cut like 200 pieces of metal on that saw for the next week. If you don't think that you're cut out for that part, you're probably not in the right industry because you got to pay your dues. And I think that's probably one of the things that gets lost. I have a lot of kids from welding school that come interview with me right now. I can always tell when a school graduates, right? Like,
because you start getting 15, 20 applications.
Start getting them, they'll start coming in, and you can tell it's their first one. Real nervous, real scared. And I just try and like put myself in their shoes where I was when I went and did my first one, which I was nervous as hell. Like, you know, like, what am I going to do? And just calm down. You know, it's a simple test. Like, it's just, let me see what you got, right? It's not crazy. If you can just get close to what we're emulating in here, I can bring you in and I have stuff that you can work on and get better, right? And if, you know, some guys aren't good, you know, that's just the nature of it. Like you know who's a good welder and who isn't. It's cut and dry. It's not, oh, this guy's kind of good or this guy, like, yeah, you can stick metal together, but especially in our shop, if it's not a $1 million weld, then I can't use you on the floor. I can't have you weld this because it's going to go on this boat. And this guy, you know, do you have $1 million? I don't have $1 million. If I'm spending $1 million on a boat and I walk out there and I see goobers all over everything, I'm going to be like, well, I bought the wrong boat, right? I can't have that. And I'm not ever going to let that come out of that shop. There's just no way. And I feel bad for telling these kids that, you know, you just need more practice. You know, you just got to, you know, work here. But you can see the ones who come in and they take every step possible, right? They know everything that they're supposed to be doing and they mess up a little bit. But in the interview process, you listen to like what they're talking about and you give them a shot. And that's what I did with my last guy. And he turned out to be amazing, but he would show up early, stayed late, wanted to do everything, practice on the brakes. If those kids aren't willing to put in the work, you might want to like think about something else.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not being a dickhead about it or
No,
like,
but I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to get work done, and you can't do that by being a charity case and like hiring all the local students. I mean, it's really cool that you guys are open to bringing students in from welding school, because I tell employers all the class right before you started. I had a guy, I called him up and I was like, hey, I'm like, one of my students is interested in coming to work for you. Like, can I send him down? He's like, yeah, I don't hire kids out of welding school. And I was like, let me just send you this one guy. And if he doesn't work out, I'll never call you again. But if he does work out and you ever need somebody, just call me. And he ended up hiring him. He's like, man, I'll take 3 more of them. I was like, well, everybody else is hired, hit me up on the next class. But I mean, that's like the thing is like the fact that you're willing to give them an opportunity. Because a lot of companies are like, oh, we want 5 to 7 years worth of work experience, this, that, and everything. Yeah, but you also get 5 to 7 years worth of bad habits. You get 5 to 7 years worth of bad work ethics. It's 5 to 7 years worth of, well, the job over here is going to pay me $1 more an hour, so I'm out. Deuces. But if you take somebody that's got the skill set, they've got the work ethic, they've got the passion to do that, they want to come in early and stay late and work over the breaks and all that stuff. Like, you find that kid, like, hire him, give him a shot.
Right.
Put him to work. I mean, like you said, like, you can't start off doing these welds, but I've got some stuff in the shop that you can do. You might be on the saw for a while. Once your practice improves and you start getting better, we can start bumping you up the line. But like right now, sweep the floor. And if that's your job, be the best damn floor sweeper you can be. If you're on the saw, like I spent freaking 6-7 weeks in a shed in Florida cutting I-beams on a saw. Oh, like uninsulated, like no fan, nothing. I mean, there was a light,
just pouring sweat all day.
Just dripping sweat. And that's what I did. But I was a badass welder. The company knew that I was, because they used me on welding projects. But when shit dried up, like, hey man, sorry, all we got is like cutting up material or punching holes or this, that, and everything. Okay, I'll do that.
And those cuts are going to be perfect.
Cuts are 90 degrees and they're, exactly where you need them to be.
That's it.
And then, once the next job kicks off, like they're going to move me around. They're going to see that passion, that work ethic, and that drive, and they're going to say, okay, we can trust them. And like shortly after that, I was pushing my own work.
And that's
all it takes.
It's all it takes. It's just whatever you're doing, give 110%. It doesn't matter if you're cutting I-beams, punching holes, sweeping like we've touched on it a ton today, I feel like, but it's all about effort. Like talent's great. Talent, I remember you telling me this, the certification will get you the interview.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but it might not get you the job. What you do that day when you show up, that's what will get you the job. And then your work ethic after that day is what will keep that job. Because if you can't have one and not this. You got to have all 3 to be successful on probably anything in life. I'd say you have to have work ethic, skill, talent, everything that goes into whatever it is you're doing.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Upgrade your current fabrication setup with Strong Hand. Their fabrication tables and tools are built to withstand the rigors of the workshop and provide a stable, secure work surface. For clamping, welding, cutting, and fabrication, Strong Hand tables and tools will help you get the job done faster and more accurate. Trust Strong Hand for all your fabrication needs. Shop now and take advantage of their 10% discount on tables and 5% discount on all their 5/8 tool packs when you shop stronghandtools.com/promo. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. They just released the all-new Typhoon. It's a badass stick and TIG machine packed full of advanced features and functions, including all-new industry-first waveforms. The Typhoon is available in a 230 amp or a 325 amp version as well. Both options feature a 7-inch high-def color user interface screen, AC/DC stick and TIG capabilities, pulse adjustment, and 5 AC waveforms. The Typhoon is available right now for pre-orders at everlastwelders.com. And as always, be sure to use Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back into the show. So many people put, especially in a school setting, for some reason, there's so much emphasis on a certification that everything else seems to go by the wayside. It's like, don't worry about that cert. If you know you're a good welder, but you're not passing a cert test, don't worry. Because like you said, you went to your first weld job or whatever, they wanted you to weld up a box. That's got absolutely nothing to do with a 3/8 stick test. That
No
everybody
3G,
has
4G,
got
nothing
such a
like
freaking
that.
hard on for. You had to build a box, and it's not out of 3/8 plate. So don't put so much emphasis on the test plate. Focus on the fundamentals. Focus on the measuring skills. Focus on all these things, because 90% of the employers out there that are hiring, they're not giving out a D11 stick test. They're not giving out like a D12 aluminum test. They're not. That's not what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
You're putting something together. You're fabricating it. Maybe in a pipe shop, yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to put a root, fill, cap, all that good shit in there. But I mean, that's what you're doing. You're welding circles all day. I mean, that's kind of like the extent of what you're being hired to do. Yeah, we need to make sure that that's good. Or same thing with structural. But most people are getting into manufacturing and fabrication. So don't worry about, if you didn't pass a test coming out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, if that's going to be a requirement at the next job, maybe you'll get it over there and you're not going to be as stressed out. But at least now you got a job. Now you got some money in your pockets. Focus on the fundamentals. Like that's the biggest thing.
It really is. And I think I have a lot of friends that have gone through welding schools, have seen my, called and asked me like, hey man, would you go to another school? Oh, I completely support welding school. I really think that it gives you the background and the book knowledge, right? The like, why does this not work, right? I mean, our schools broke it down to the molecular level on like why this bonds to this and what this material type does to that. Like that helps. Like that will come in handy some point. And if you're, I'm not saying that the guy who like learned in his garage and works with, got hired and then became 20 years in, like, but you had to get 20 years to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to a welding school.
It puts you on a fast track.
It's a fast track to get to where you want to be. I mean, prime example sitting right here, right? Like I didn't spend 10 years prior to this learning to weld and then like progressed up through the ranks. It was fast tracked, weld jobs, learn and get to where you want to be.
Yeah,
but
you guys were in there just shy of a year. Like you started January and then ended late January and then ended
December
15th. Yeah,
I don't know why I know all these days. It was a life-changing experience.
There you go.
I remember it.
That's
right?
freaking awesome, man.
It really was. It really was. And the weld test I took prior to this one, it was scrap. The guy walked over to a scrap bin and was like, "Here, let me see what your weld looks like." And I mean, even other job interviews I went on to that, jobs I didn't even get. It was, I think I only took one weld test that was like a set up 3G MIG weld test, which I didn't pass it. Or at least I didn't get the job.
Happens.
I didn't get the job. I don't know whether I passed it. Looking back now, because Fisher actually went and got hired there he worked there for like 2 weeks, and he was like, "No, fuck this place.
Oh, yeah.
I'm out. I won't mention that company's name." But without, these kids put stress on it, and I see them when they come into the shop to interview and stuff, or my buddies who are like telling me, "Oh, I got this cert. I'm 4G, I'm 6G. I got this. I can do that." And then, man, I'd love to bring you in on an interview, man. Like, come on in, man. Let's see what you got. And these guys, like my favorite, I had a guy come in one time, and this is a great story. He has a resume. He's telling me all the things that he's built this, and he's 6G in that, and he's a stainless pipe welder from Texas, and all like I'm like, all right, like
It's got all the words.
yeah, man, like you sound good. Like this is like he's kind of a younger guy. He's excited. When he goes to take his weld test, and like he had pictures of his welds on the back of his resume, right? I'm like, oh, okay, that's new. But he takes his weld test, whatever. I try not to like I'll check in on him, but I'll kind of like stay back.
Don't bird dog them.
Yeah, I don't bird dog. I still have a shop to like keep an eye on, so
Yeah.
I'm still walking around. But I'll stick my head in. He finishes up, he leaves. Thank him, kind of talk a little bit. You go check on his welds. And I'm looking at his pictures that he posted on the back, and I'm looking at these welds on the table. I'm like, this, like, what? Like, not even close. Like, I mean, like, not even close. And I'm like, what the hell? So just for fun, I Googled stainless TIG welding. No lie, 6 pictures down is a picture on this kid's resume.
Jeez.
And I'm like, oh, man, like, he's already gone at this point. I know like, he probably thought it was, who's going to check it, right? And it got him in the interview. But, like, if, don't do that.
Yeah, your work's got to speak for itself.
Absolutely. Like, I'll know real quick if you know what you're talking about, or if you don't know what you're talking about. That's why I like welding. It's cut and dry.
You can either can or you can't.
You can or you can't.
Yeah.
And you can learn to can. You can get better and become what you want to be. But you get the guy who walks in, oh yeah, I know how to weld, and then oh shit, I don't know how to weld.
Yeah, you don't know how to weld.
Oh no, yeah.
So I actually remember my first weld test. I was still in welding school at the time, and I was trying to line up a job to work during the summer. And like same thing, like I go in there and I'm all nervous and shit because I still haven't passed my D11 plate test, which that's like the fucking mecca of welding, right? In welding school, that's like the thing, 3G. So I go in there and it's a MIG and TIG test, and so he like same thing, pulls some shit out of the scrap, and he's like, here you go, weld this together. And the first couple of pieces, it was regular, MIG, probably like 3/16 or 1/8 inch material. Mm-hmm. Weld that up. Okay, we're good. He grabs some other shit out of the scrap. This one's aluminum MIG because it was for a company that builds ambulances out in Orlando. So they do a lot of, yeah, you probably know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
But I think it was a different name before.
It was probably a different name then, yeah.
I think back then it was National Ambulance Builders. So now it's something different.
It's something different,
But I went to go, did the aluminum test, and then he hands me this other material. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, is this stainless or is it steel? Like, I can't figure it out. So I'm looking, because it's painted. So he's like, just weld it. Don't worry about it. Just weld it up. I was like, okay. He's like, here's the filler metal. Here's the torch. I'm like, okay, obviously it's stainless because he gave me stainless filler, and he said, just weld it up. Yeah. So I, take a wire brush, and I just start cleaning all this material up, and I stick it together, and I put probably 2-inch weld on there, and he goes, stop. I was like, okay. He's like, I just wanted to see if you'd take the paint off, but your weld looks pretty good. I was like, okay, cool. So I got the job.
Right.
But I mean, like, going back to that, you don't necessarily have to pass a welding test to get a good job. Because I think they were going to pay me, I think I was 16 years, 15, 16, no, I was 16 because I drove to the interview. So I was at least 16. I think they were going to give me 16, 17 bucks an hour to do this job. And I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome.
That's good
at
money.
My age, I was like, that's freaking great. This is back in 99, 2000, somewhere in there.
Damn, you're old.
And yeah, I know, right? So I got fired at the end of the day, though. I literally worked an 8-hour shift and got fired at the end of the day.
What would you do?
Their insurance wouldn't cover me.
Because you were young?
Because I was under the age of 18. So the guy says, look, dude, nothing personal, but like, we're going to pay you for today. Don't worry. But as soon as you turn 18, we want you to come back.
Please come back.
Please come back. Because, I mean, they had me out there welding all day. Like, I'm welding on all these boxes, doing all this aluminum MIG welding and shit. And, like, I was doing fucking awesome. I was like, oh, this is going to be an awesome summer. I'm going to, like, save up some money. I'm going to get a better car than this jalopy that I got,
Right.
And, fired after 8 hours.
Like, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, right?
The next thing you know, you join the military.
Yeah, that was, otherwise I would have went back, built freaking ambulances. That would have been a whole different story. I probably wouldn't be doing this shit right now.
Yeah, you probably would have been a little different. But that's something that I think gets lost a little bit is the aluminum MIG. I get a lot of people in, they're like, oh, I do great TIG, I do great this, but aluminum MIG is something that I test for with my guys, like right off the bat, because especially in Florida, there's a lot of demand for aluminum MIG work.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember in school, especially when I went with your program, man, I think we had one aluminum MIG day.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was maybe a couple, but because of the volume of students, but I don't think they had the equipment to do it.
I think we had like one
old shit,
old shitty
spool gun.
Yeah, that like it was crusty. And then I think every shop I've worked in after that, I mean, aluminum MIG has been
it's pretty prevalent.
A prevalent thing.
Even in Bill's shop, he's got a Millermatic 252. He's got a couple of them. He loves that machine.
252s are nice.
Oh, they're nice. I like them.
That's a decent machine.
He's got it set up to where it's like on demand. So he's got his MIG gun hanging off of it. He's got 100% argon on one side. And then he's got 75-25 on the same. He's got like a dual cylinder cart. Yeah. But regardless of which gun he picks up, so if he picks up the aluminum gun and pulls the trigger, it automatically switches over.
Oh, that's nice.
And he just leaves his bottles on all the time. But there's some habits. Anyway, but I mean, it's like cool because you can just grab one or the other. It just shows you like how prevalent that is in our industry or our area down here in Central Florida. That like it's a lot of it's steel MIG or aluminum MIG.
I mean, that's really it. I mean, most production fabrication shops are steel MIG or aluminum MIG, and you might have one guy that does some TIG work.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've encountered in my short time doing this is that, until you start getting into a bigger, like a bigger shop, a more well-established place that might have 100 employees all doing it, then you might end up with like 10 or 15 guys all doing this, 10 guys doing that. But for the most part, most fabrication shops down here are smaller, I would say.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of fly-by-night places, mom and pop shops.
Oh, the first place I ever worked at, that first interview, I mean, it was basically a storage unit that like I worked in. It was like one of those like 20 feet wide and 100 feet long kind of,
Just a
chop saw.
bay.
Yeah, bay, right? A chop saw on one side, a couple welders, and a bender, and that was in a table to work on. And they didn't last incredibly long, but I mean, that's where people start, right? And
Yeah.
you either make it or you don't, and you grow and grow and grow, and then you get to the place where I'm at now, where it's an entire hell. I think we own the whole street. Maybe we don't own the actual street, but like we're on both sides of it, quarter-mile long like process. And
Damn.
it's pretty intense. You should come by and take a look at it
I'll have to
sometime.
stop by. I got a lot of free time lately.
Yeah, that's
Well,
good.
I mean, not really, but like I can write my own schedule. So
You come take a look.
Yeah, pop down there.
Show you some cool boats and stuff.
yeah. So what do you think is like some of the coolest, or like we talked about some of the great stuff that was in the program. Like, what do you think welding schools should be doing to prepare people to get into the industry? Like, what are some of the things they should focus on to make sure that the students have the skill sets to, get into industry? First, because we talked, so many people focus on a plate test. What else can schools be doing to, kind of guarantee employment? I mean, not guarantee. I mean, it's going to come down to work ethics.
Right. I would say if a school is trying to enhance their students to become prepared for the real world, to be out there, I think having a mix of different techniques of welding would be a positive. I get a lot of people that come in and they're great at one thing, and it's not so much they just tell me because that's all the school that they went to did, right? Like, I can run stick beads all day. I'm 4G certified. I'm 3G this. I'm 6G that. I can, I'm up to 1 inch and all this. And I'm like, well, that's great, man, but we don't do any stick here. Like, I can't hire you. Like, I can't help you. I get guys that come in and they have no aluminum experience. Great steel welders. I mean, can do anything I ask them to do. Hand them an aluminum TIG rod, and I watch them do great stainless work. Hand them an aluminum TIG rod, and it looks like they've never welded before.
Something's wrong with that machine. It's making a weird noise.
Yeah. Like, what is that? Like, what is that? I think that it comes down to the school having the proper equipment. I know some schools around here are using old dogged out things. I think that having the proper instructor, someone who is passionate about teaching the next generation the right way of doing things, not just showing up there and kicking their feet back on the desk and letting the kids weld in the welding booth. I think having a fabrication background in a lot of things is a big plus, not just in a booth welding 8 hours a day. Like, have a class built, around maybe a project or like fabricating, right? Like, here, cut this, bend that, cope this, put this joint together, and then weld it out, right? Like, there's a lot more into this industry than just welding. And if you want to make it and you want to make the money and you want to be a valuable person wherever you end up, you can't just be the guy who welds. Like, that's great. If you become the greatest welder in the world and you lay down the best beads you've ever seen, and that's your niche and that's what you want to do, there is money there. But if you can do that and you can build the part that you're also welding out, well, man, now, well, you're a fabricator and a welder, right? Like, I always told myself, there's a difference between a fabricator and a welder, right? A welder is going to get his part handed to him and weld it out. Or the pipe's going to get put together and they're going to weld the pipe out, or whatever. The crane flies the I-beam in and it goes into place and you weld it out. But when you have a fabricator who walks in, I have a guy who works for me right now. His name's Jonathan. He's got 40 years of experience. Right? It kind of puts me in a weird situation sometimes because I'm like, I'm in charge of this guy. Yeah. But like, this man is very, very good at what he does and unbelievable. And he was a welding instructor up in I think New Hampshire or Massachusetts, somewhere up in the Northeast. And he is a true fabricator. There's nothing I can't hand him in that shop that he will not bend up, twist up, roll, weld, put together, weld out, and be done with it in an hour. Not an hour, but like, he's fast.
He's good.
He's good. He's very good. And I try to tell the younger guys that work in there to like, go
Hang out with that
hang
guy.
out. He's the old guy with the gray hair in the back that you got to bring a sandwich to.
Yeah.
Like, you need to hang out with that. And I tell them all the time, like, man, I wish I could come out here and just work with you. I really do.
Yeah.
Like the things I would learn.
Turn the computer off. Just walk out in the shop.
I
put
would.
it
And
down.
then the emails build up. I hooked the emails to my phone the other day. That was a terrible idea.
That was a horrible idea.
I don't know why I thought that was a good plan, but is what it is now.
It'd be better in the long run, but it sucks dealing with it.
I'm sure everyone else is appreciative of it, but it dings here and there. Like, I felt it vibrate at least 4 times. Just these schools, they got to realize that they're preparing people for their future, and they're not just there to collect a paycheck. And I think that gets lost depending on where they're at. The school doesn't invest in equipment, doesn't invest in good instructors. If they put the time in to get the right equipment, have the right processes down, have something that will make these, I say kids, but I remember being in our class, they weren't just kids in that class. I mean, hell, I was 25 in that welding school class, or 24, something like that. And I mean, I think Colin might have been the only one like right out of high school.
He might have been.
I mean, I feel like there was Fisher was probably Fisher's closer to his age, but yeah, there was grown men in that class.
Oh yeah,
that like
grown ass men. There was a dude with gray hair in that class. He only made it halfway through.
Well, we
got through stick and MIG, and he was like, "That's all I needed." Out.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember his name, but I remember that guy. Just having the knowledge that will help them in their future, whether they be 30 or 18, just help those people get to what everyone's in there for the common goal. Everybody wants to learn how to weld. Just facilitate that.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about it with the aluminum spool guns that the other place had. It was crusty and old and didn't work, and no one used it. And then you go to a weld, all the weld shops around here, and they're like, "Hey, do you know aluminum MIG?" Oh, well, I mean, I ran it once, but if these schools would invest in a 252 or a 350p or something like that would get these kids up to speed. Aluminum MIG's not hard.
No,
I mean, it really is easy. It throws all these people off. It really, like, I've watched my steel guys who they do great steel work. They really do lay down some great beads, can handle anything I throw at them. I hand them a aluminum MIG gun and they're going the wrong direction. It's terrible. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I've never fucked with this before. Oh, it's not. And once you show them a little bit, hold on, like, back off a little bit, let it burn in, and it's gonna go fast. So when they're like, oh shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But these schools don't
I like how quick it runs, and that's one of the reasons that I taught as many processes as you went through. We did stick, MIG, TIG, flux core, a little bit of aluminum MIG. The TIG, DC and AC, because if you can, and I start off with stick because if you can learn that process, you can learn any of the other ones.
Absolutely.
But the cool thing is, once you learn all these different processes, like you guys didn't have access to aluminum MIG welding as much as I would have liked, but you can pick up on that process a lot easier
You understand
because
what a puddle does.
you know what the puddle does.
Right.
Read the puddle and then give it what it wants. Oh, you need a little bit more wire there, little buddy? Okay, no problem. Turn up the wire feed speed. Oh, you want to be a little bit wider? I'll give you a little bit more voltage. Okay, you're getting black soot. Okay, I'm gonna push instead of pull. Like all this stuff. I mean, like you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the result, and you're gonna say, okay, I know how to fix this.
Right.
And you're gonna learn that much quicker.
It's one of those. I remember being in the class, and you find a setting you like aluminum, or we'll do a steel MIG here for a minute, right? You're like, oh man, that was a good one, right? Okay, I remember taking pictures of the front of the machine, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna remember that setting, right? Then you start realizing it's not so much like that specific setting that is the bread and butter. You start seeing, like, the more you do it, what the puddle's doing. What does it sound like? When I went to take that weld test at the heavy equipment place and Brad watched my weld test, he didn't even watch it.
You listen to it.
He listened to it. And as soon as I was done, he's like, no, you're good. Yeah. I'm gonna go fill it out. I'm like, all right. Did you want to see it? Nah, you can throw that in the scrap bin. I heard it.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll get to that point. Like I used to do it all the time, walking through, and just like I'd walk by a booth and you could hear something. Be like, hey, bring that nozzle a little closer, right there. And you go on to the next booth and be like, oh, your polarity's off. You go to the next booth and be like, oh, nope, your arc length's a little too long. Get it a little bit tighter. And like you're just listening to it outside the booth and just shouting information in. And you'll get to a point because you got to be able to see it, feel it, hear it as the welder. But as you get experience, you'll be able to tell if variables are off just by hearing it.
Well, that's like, I remember you telling me, I think I had my headphones in one day and you came by. I think you snatched them out of my ear probably.
That sounds like something
we were on a good little like relationship in there where you knew you could like fuck
we had
with
a
me.
love-hate relationship.
Yeah, you could fuck with me a little bit and I wasn't going to get mad at you. And you took them out of my ear or whatever. And you're like, you got to listen to it. How are you going to know what that wire speed's doing, this and that? And I remember being like, this fucking asshole. And now you get to the point where you've done it enough to where you can put your headphones in because you can see it through the puddle.
Yeah.
You don't even need to hear it anymore. You know, you get your settings, you get good enough where you can put your headphones in, you put your head down.
You can see it, you can feel it.
And you can just go.
But school's not the place to do it.
School's not the place to do it. So these you can tell who pays attention. When they come for their interviews, you can tell who knows and understands what they do. And then you have kids who show up and they were there, like you said, to get away from their mom for a little bit. And, they have to send them on their way and go back to their moms. Where they, I had one kid come in one time and he said all the right things, took his weld test. Welds weren't bad by any means. Brought him in for about a day. He worked about 12 hours, left all of his tools, never came back.
Damn.
Yeah. Did 2 shifts, did an 8-hour and then 4, went to lunch, left his tape measures, hammers, everything, just never came back.
Did he die or just...
No, he just walked off.
Jeez.
He just didn't want to do it anymore. So, I mean, you never know. But as far as what these schools can do to make these kids more prepared, just give them as much processes as they can. Let them not only become welders, but show them some fabrication. Reading a tape measure. I mean,
that's huge.
That's I think lost on a lot of these kids growing up right now, where like you hand them a tape measure and it's what?
Yeah.
Like,
it's a foreign object.
It's 1 inch. They know
it's
the inches.
3 little marks past the big mark. What the fuck?
I had someone one time. I won't mention her name, but she gave me a measurement in metric and standard off a tape measure. It was 1 inch and 4 centimeters long.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I was very impressed that she could read it that way. But oh yeah, I still see her every once in a while. I don't let her live that one down.
Damn. No, I mean it's pretty cool to see like the path that you've gone on. Because I remember there was times in class that like I had to ride you a little bit harder, and I think I told you I was like the reason I'm such a dick to you is because like I see the potential.
Right.
You've got the potential.
That.
You remember that conversation?
I remember that.
I think it was shortly after I punted your Gatorade off the welding machine.
Yes.
Why
yes.
Lincoln decides to put a cup holder on a $6,000 piece of equipment is beyond me.
Brand new square wave machine.
Yeah.
I had a Gatorade sitting on top of it. I remember that. Yeah, you punted that one out the door. Yeah, I remember you really dogging me, and I think it was me and Fisher and Colin really like our little bond that we had because I think we knew we were good at what we were doing, and not that we were cocky about it, but it was like, hey, I know what I'm doing. Like, and you were like, you don't know shit. Like, quit. You don't know a damn thing. You've been doing this for 3 months. Like, get the hell out of here, right? But because of that, and because of the way you did, it was, all that stuff, it adds up, right? And our relationship was fun. Like I said, like you used to make fun of me for being on watching weld porn and all this other stuff on Instagram, and now here you are on weld.com and doing all this, all this fun stuff that you get to do on the internet. And I'm like, this guy becomes internet famous, and he used to like talk shit about me watching these guys become internet famous.
Well,
like,
yeah, but after class.
Well, we were on break. It wasn't our turn to be in the booth. Like you wanted us to read in those books. I don't know what.
The fucking books.
Those books. Well, there has a lot of information.
Teacher
in there.
guy with the damn books again.
It was a good time. I think you threw my phone one time. Pretty sure.
I may have.
I think I was playing Madden on my phone, and you threw my phone out the door, and I was like, "What the hell, man?"
I was a little rough around the edges. Like
I
just got out of the field, and
you had been out of the field. You were in the Marines before that. Yeah. Like you had no time for any of us just fucking around.
Didn't have time for bullshit.
Not at all.
You guys are paying me. You're paying my salary to teach you what I know, and I've only got a short amount of time to do it. Like we got to get down to brass tacks here, bud. No, it was good, man. I think we had a lot of fun. We got to do a lot of cool shit.
We did get to do a lot of cool stuff.
And then you guys, I mean, like everybody in that class has done freaking. I mean, that stayed in touch has done freaking phenomenal shit. Everybody's done awesome things. I mean, like and that's what I tell people all the time. You're gonna get, regardless of what you do in life, you're gonna get out what you put in.
Absolutely.
we had one student that like he did the same shit. He like fucked off the entire term, and then like it came up to graduate. He did the bare minimum to get by, like everything that just checked just barely made it to check in all the boxes. And it was like 2 weeks before graduation, and he looked over at one of the other kids and he goes, I just came to the realization that you get out of this program what you put into it. And I'm like, well, what a fucking revelation. I've been trying to tell you that since day one. That's one of the things I wanted to do, because like you don't realize how fast, like you sign up for a 1-year welding program or, 20 weeks or 6 months or whatever the case. I always wanted to put like a countdown timer in the classroom.
Yeah.
And like, okay, boom, today's day 1, hour 1, boom, here's the countdown timer. So you could see that every single day, because it's not until the last 3 or 4 weeks that most people really start buckling down. They realize, oh shit, time is of the essence.
Right.
I remember the one kid in your class, he was freaking out. Like we're all doing cleanup, last day of class, wanted to do 6G pipe, not going to drop his name. And
I remember that.
He was pissed because like he got it. I was like, I will let you, I'll tell you what, yesterday was the last day to test. I will let you test today. And if you pass, I will personally drive it down to the testing facility to get everything examined.
Yep.
And I'll have your results by graduation.
Yep.
Okay. So like he gets everything all prepped up. Everybody else is cleaning up the shop. Like they already had their last chance the day before. And he shits the bed on the root. I said, yeah, dude, that's done. That's it. He's like, no, I need another shot. And I was like, that's it. No more. Yesterday was the last day. I let you go. This is bullshit. There's not enough time. This program is not enough time. And I was like, you've been here for a year.
A year.
There was enough time when I had to go chase you out of the bathroom because like that was the only place you could find a phone charger to be on your phone all damn day. That was like there was time when I had to go out to your car and wake you up to come back to class. There was time when I had to like give you a phone call to find out, hey, where the hell are you at? You're supposed to be in your welding booth. There was time. You just didn't use it properly.
And that's it. You gotta understand that you're committing to something that you're hoping will be your future, right? Like I know some people were in the class used to like that old guy, I just wanted to learn MIG and stick and I'm out, right? Yeah. Like that's an outlier, right? For the most part, people
he got what he came for.
Exactly. Most people I feel like join trade programs, whatever it is, because they want to change whatever situation they're in. They're working fast food or they're in warehousing or whatever it is, they want to change. And then if you don't show up and commit to that change, then you're just going to leave that program and go right back to serving pizzas.
Yeah, right back to where you were.
I mean, that's just how that's life, right? And that's in any part of life. Like if you don't continue to evolve and change and get better, even if it's 1% better every day, right? Like just whatever, like just do something a little bit better than you did the day before. And if you fail to do that, you're never gonna make it.
You're never gonna grow.
You're never gonna grow, and you're gonna be stuck in the same terrible place, looking for the next. How do I quick fix this out of here because I've squandered all the opportunity or the opportunity that I paid for and presented itself. Mm-hmm. And people do it, but it's you can't base. How much I say this? Like you can't go into an opportunity to change your life and not have the drive behind it. Other than you're just wasting your time, you're wasting your instructor's time, you wasted a bunch of money because like these programs aren't cheap.
Yeah, no.
I remember like I had the GI Bill going into the welding program, so I didn't have to worry about the prices. And I remember Fisher and them like
scrambling
for money. Like, damn, like how do I get this money to pay for that? I can only imagine what the price of a welding school now is with like the way economy inflation has gone up, but I'm sure it's not cheap.
Oh, hell no, dude. Like right after COVID, like I had to buy more material and it was 3 times the cost as it was pre-COVID.
No, don't get me started on it. I got to make those material orders now. I see the prices.
My freaking admin was like, "Hey, do me a favor. We need to know the difference between the cost, when we let out of school for COVID and what the costs are coming back, because we understand that things have gone up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So just let us know the difference between what it cost then and what it costs now." So I said, "Okay." So I sent him the freaking. I was like, "Boom! Here's the difference." And they're like, no, we don't need the total cost of the material to buy it again. We need the difference. And I was like, that is the difference. That's the difference. Like the difference is what, it's double.
Yeah,
It's double and a half, damn near.
it
That's
really
the difference.
is. Yeah, it is.
They were freaking. And then they get a
bet.
construction program. Then they realized that their 2x4s went up like 500%. Like before COVID, they were paying like $1.88, and then they're paying damn near $10 a friggin'
$10 a 2x4.
Oh, like
God.
holy shit!
No, it's no fun. Like, that's part of the like what I do now is quoting jobs for like an engineering firm will get a hold of us and they'll go through. We have a project manager and all that stuff, and they'll get with them. They'll submit drawings and everything, and then I go through the drawings, and we have a full machine shop. We have a water jet machine. We have a full water jet building. We have multiple water jet machines.
Damn.
Like, oh yeah, it's like, you gotta come check. You gotta
this
come
out.
check this setup out, man. This
ain't no fly by night operation.
Hell no. This is top of the line, man. It's nice over there. Machine shop alone has. You just gotta come check it out,
Okay.
man. All brand new Hans machines across the board. Like it's sick. So they submit these drawings and everything. You go through and you start quoting everything, and then you got your shop rate and how much that is. Then you got your material cost involved and how much time is it going to take to do this and that, and you start adding it up. And a simple, we'll call it a cart, right? That just has four casters on it, made from 3x3, 3/16. It's 10x10 or whatever. It's just designed to tow something around, right? Well, actually, the thing's $12,000 to build this thing, and you give it back to the customer, and they're like, what the hell? I'm like, well, you can go somewhere else and figure it out, but it's gonna be that across the board, and it's not so much that building it got harder or more money. It's the material. Material is the problem. It's and that's why the boats are how expensive they are, and that's across any boat, whatever you buy, everything is more expensive.
Yeah, and inflation's not making it any damn easier.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't cost any more to perform the work.
No, it doesn't. But it still costs, twice as much for that roll of wire.
Yeah.
Or that gas that
all the consumables have to go into it. It's a lot.
Everything across the board is double or not triple the price of what it used to be. I remember running my own thing, and when I started getting into it, I was doing it on the side, after work. 2019, 2018 kind of time frame, was kind of just dabbling in it, and I could get I think it was an 80-pound bottle of argon. I think it cost me maybe $40 to fill up, something like that. The same bottle
sounds about right.
It's about $100 to fill up that bottle now. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think
it's the same. It's the same
paying
gas.
Roughly $80 when I left.
Yeah,
$80 a fill. And we got a discount because we're at school, but we're buying in bulk. But yeah, if you go
you buy yourself
single
up to
tank.
air gas, they're gonna charge you out the ass for it.
We'll talk afterwards. I'll lead you in the right direction.
No good.
I can't I can't get accused of libel.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, that's the
Just nature of the
way
beast, man. This
way
business,
of the world.
cost of doing business.
That's right. And doing my own thing for a little bit, you get the homeowner that calls you, right? And they want their,
Yeah.
I had a guy call me one time to fix his recliner.
Gee.
His recliner broke, right? And I'm like, you serious right now? He's like, yeah, I love this recliner. I want to fix it. And I start, did a quick quote on him. It's going to be $260 for me to show up and fix this guy's recliner. He just broke a little arm on it, right? He's like, well, the recliner, I only paid $200 for it. I don't oh, well, okay, come do it. All right, that's fine, right? So he agrees on the price.
He loves this recliner.
And he loves this recliner. I come out there, and he has it pulled out in the garage. I go through the whole process. I set everything up real quick. I run a 1-inch little MIG weld, right? Just weld his shit back together real quick, right? It took me more time to set all my stuff up than it did. He looked at me and he goes, well, that's it? I'm like, well, yeah, that's it. I got in his recliner, I opened it, and
it works.
It's fixed, yeah. Pay up. Well, I don't think that was worth $260. I think that was worth $60. And I'm like, I damn near
cut off wheel.
I damn near got the cutoff wheel out and just cut that right back off. And he did eventually pay and everything, but that's when I was like, I'm never going to a homeowner's house again.
Yeah, homeowners are a little finicky, man. They want that. What the hell's that damn service you can get on there and find the cheapest contract?
The Yelp or whatever.
Yeah, you don't want the cheapest contract. You want somebody that'll show up and get it done right.
That's what I said. I was like, well, I have a truck I have to pay for. I got the equipment I have to pay for. You got the skill you have to pay for. Can you do it? Here, I'll hand you the welding machine. You can try and do it.
I was always hesitant because I did some work for some homeowners and stuff, and then this guy calls me up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want this. I I got this old, like, I can't remember what the hell it was, like an old exterior gate that he wanted me to chop down.
Okay.
And like weld little ornamental pieces on it. And then he wants like one set in his kitchen and then the other set like at the bottom of his staircase in his house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fuck, this is gonna be a rough one. So like I quoted it out and I was like, I didn't think I'd hear from him. He's like, yeah, done, no problem. He's like some hot shot, big,
got money, right?
He's got money.
Yeah.
So like I showed up to do this and I'm like, why the fuck would you want these ratty ass? Or apparently it was like something handed down in his family or something like that. So I was like, okay, cool. But that time it worked out working for a homeowner because he runs construction trades for one of the major theme parks. So he understands the cost for labor and materials and all that stuff.
But every once in a while you'll get that homeowner who understands. I had when I was doing my thing, he was an engineer. Oh man, what did I fix for him? I fixed something on his patio, or he had a gate, like an aluminum swing gate to get into his patio that snapped off the hinges. So I came out and welded the hinges back on for him. Knocked it out real quick. We just got the bullshitting real quick. And, he starts like calling me up for engineering jobs. Like, he's like, hey man, I got this, whatever it is, it was one of the first things he called, he was doing a ladder to a roof of a building. I mean, can you like build a ladder on the side of a building and like, like the fire escape kind of deal thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I can build one of those. I probably 12 or 15 jobs off that guy just because I went and fixed his gate one time.
Yeah.
And that's the good side of it.
That's all you need, man. It's all about that. I mean, that's some of the stuff that you covered in the episode. Networking and mentoring, like all that shit is like massive in this industry.
It's huge.
Networking is freaking key. Like you do one job for somebody, I mean, that could springboard you into another one.
Especially if you do a good job.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest thing is your name is your legacy.
Absolutely. And you leave. I'm going to give you credit for this, but I'm not sure if it was you who told me this or maybe I just made this up on my own, but
I'll let you know.
All right. Your weld is your signature.
Yeah.
All right. Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you leave a job, a weld stays there, right? And I don't know about you, but I feel like, you come back, like, remember you were talking about, I built that, I built this. That's your weld. That's your signature on that work saying that, like, you did that. You're good. And other, welders are going to walk by that at some point and look at it and be like, wow, that guy didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Yeah,
or he's going to be like,
signature.
that's a signature. Yeah, well, he should, or like, damn, like, that's some primo work right there. That's someone got paid well to do that. That's something that, like, when you get done and you step back and look at it, are you proud of that weld you put down on there? Or are you just, whatever. And that's what will make or break you in this industry. Are you whatever? Are you, it sticks, it's good. Or are you like, nah,
It's a direct reflection of your work ethics.
Absolutely. And I don't think there's really another industry that gets close to that.
No, because, you think about everybody else, like the plumbing, the electrical, I couldn't tell you how good it is in my house because the drywaller covered it up. But, like, you go on a lot of these big jobs, like, the welds are exposed.
Right. I mean,
you go through a lot of
a
these
theme
parking
park.
garages,
Look,
theme parks.
Look at
like,
a theme
all
park,
those
a roller
welds are
coaster
exposed.
being you're standing there in line next to that roller coaster going by. And
They might have some paint on them, but
you can, if you're a welder, you know exactly what you're looking
for.
at.
Yeah.
And you're like,
that's the curse of being a welder. Is like everywhere you go, like you're rating everybody else's shit.
Oh my god, I dated this girl for a while, and she would get on me all the time. The typical. I'm walking by and I'm, this fucking sucks. I don't know who did this, but and to the point where like I did it so much that she started pointing out welds.
My wife does that to me now. She's
I
like,
bet she does.
Look at this shit.
Look at this trash shit. Like, can you believe they let this fly? But it's been fun to do that, right? Because I remember being like, I remember going to Universal like in welding school, right? And I start looking at like, and I start thinking to myself, I'm like, well, damn, if they're paying this guy to do this, like, I'm definitely getting a job.
Definitely get in here.
I'm definitely getting a job here. And then like, you get to the point and you start realizing like why that weld looks like that. Right? Well, because it's just a handrail in a line, right? Like that's not. They're just trying to stick it and get it, right? They're just trying to make the money.
It's just got to hold like 250 pounds of side load and it's good.
Right. But then then you get to like the boat stuff, right? Where it's like that needs to hold a whole fiberglass tower up here as it like hits a wave at 70 miles an hour with someone hanging on to the side of it. Like that shit breaks.
It matters.
It matters, right? So then you kind of get a perspective on what you're doing, right? And what matters and what doesn't. Maybe I won't bust that guy in line so hard because he probably is just, getting his paycheck and going home.
Yeah.
And so
Well, shit, man. I mean, like the cool thing is you're only like you're not even halfway through your career right now.
Absolutely not.
So that's great. I mean, like you're doing awesome. I'm fucking proud of you.
I appreciate that.
It's really cool.
I
to
like
see
I like
the
to think that
progression.
I am.
Yeah.
I do feel like every day I wake up and still learn something new, or I don't know everything. I won't sit here and admit that I know everything. But man, it's been fun. It's been fun to be here. I look forward to where it can go and what the next steps will be and how do I continue progressing on this path that I've decided to join. So it's been fun, man.
I remember reading your post on Facebook when you were like, I landed my absolute dream job. And like, the photo of the freaking ship or the yacht in the background and everything. And I was like, it's fucking awesome to like see you guys progress and go through these different changes and like watch your journey, from where it all started, and just going through and kicking ass and like starting your own businesses and like, becoming successful and getting everything that you hitting your goal, like as you went into the program, like you had an idea of what you wanted to get into and like, boom, now you're there.
Right. And it sometimes it feels like it took forever, 8 years. And then sometimes I feel like, wow, I'm just getting started, so it's like, it feels like a month. Like
It'll go by quick.
it is going
And
by quick.
The older you get, the faster it goes, man.
Oh, I know, dude. I know. I went to your welding school when I was 25. I turned 34 this year.
Damn.
I know.
Yeah. It was,
Your beard was a lot shorter than.
oh yeah. It was, well, like I think at that time I just had the goatee.
Yeah.
I had the goatee.
Yeah,
and the
you
shaved head.
just. I have a picture of you somewhere. I got a bunch of pictures from back then.
Oh, fucking Scott for Halloween. Scott,
He dressed up as
he
you.
dressed up as me. Yeah, but his goatee was black because I think he just like cut out a T-shirt and like glued it to his face.
He did.
and shit.
He did. Oh my goodness. I haven't thought about Scott in a minute.
Yeah, you got to come out to the AWS meetings when we have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott's been out there. Mac's been out there a couple times.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Are they in Orlando or?
Yeah, we usually do them on Orlando.
Okay.
But like, I'll send you the address and like we got to plan out this year. We haven't
when
planned
they are?
yeah, we haven't planned the meetings, but like meeting locations and then like whenever and then the subject, it always constantly changes.
Okay. Yeah. No, that'd be fun, man. That's like the technical side of the industry is like that's what we all come together over, right? Like we're all welders. Like
All nerd shit.
I couldn't tell you how many welders I've run into, like out at like a sporting event or like at a supercross race or something, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a oh man," we just start just for an hour just sitting there bullshitting over this process or this or that or what do you think about that, and like it's kind of like a fraternity almost.
It is.
Like you don't have to necessarily be in a union to be in the know. Like you can just everybody just does the same thing.
It's a massive industry with a small community.
It really is. I mean, what's the percentage? It's like 0.1% or something like that.
Like 0.01% of the population can actually like weld
Weld
to a
like,
proficient degree.
A proficient degree, right? Like anybody can. My buddy, a friend of mine, he built his own airboat.
Oh dear.
Never welded before.
Don't ride with him.
No, no lie. It's his welds hold. They actually don't look bad. Completely built the whole thing with a bush light in his hand and a stainless steel MIG welder in his pole barn. Great look. I mean, it's not bad. It doesn't break, but like he likes to tell me all the time, "Oh, I fabricated that. I built that airboat. I could go do this."
I could do your job.
like, dude, you build concrete. Like that's what you do all day. Not. I mean, you did good. He's mechanically inclined. Like but he likes to give me shit. Like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah, there's people that have like a knack for catching on pretty quick.
Right. I think like mechanics is one. Like a lot of mechanics I know
Oh yeah.
are maybe not. They're not putting that up on your wall right there, but like they'll run some good stuff. Especially like my heavy equipment friends who like were the service truck guys who go out like.
Oh yeah, they get into a lot of shit.
They get into some shit.
Yeah, I got to weld. I got to work on hydraulic lines. Oh, this one's got pneumatics. Yeah.
No. One buddy, Anthony. He runs. Who's he work for now? I can't remember which company it is. Anyway, he'll be out there fixing hydraulic lines, and then he'll hard face a bucket, and then like all in the same day, like same 12 hours. Like he does X, Y, and Z, and it's 3 different industries of work. Like he's doing electrical on a machine. Then he's doing actual mechanics, and then he's doing welding. And it's like
that's what my dad did for fucking years. Like anything electrical, hydraulic, mechanical. Like if I can't figure it out, I call my dad. He's like, "Oh yeah, I worked on one of them." Like he'll tell me, and I got the tools and shit. I'll stop by and okay.
I think dads are like that. My dad's the same thing. Like all this, like all the mechanics he did back in the day. I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, oh, I built a generator when I was, whatever. And I'm
when
like,
I was in middle school,
like
high school science, or the science fair.
I was like, goodness, man. Like,
They were built different back in the day, man.
they really were. That's why I said you find that old guy with the gray hair, you buy him a sandwich.
That's
and
the one.
That's the one you learn from.
Bring him coffee.
Absolutely.
Talk to him in the mornings.
That's it. Those guys will get you farther than, no knock at you, but like, they'll get you a little bit farther than what your welding instructor
Oh, yeah,
did.
no, 100%. Because, I mean, at that point, they're showing you the value. And now you're struggling with something. You're like, shit, how do I figure this out? And they just come around the corner like, oh, yeah, pop a line over here, bend it this way, tweak it that way, clamp it over here, tack it up.
Oh, one of the things that, we never really covered in school, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but basically the way heat moves metal, right? So, like, we're sitting there.
Distortion.
Okay, so let's say it's bent a little bit, right? We'll take a basket on a JLG man lift, right? That door is not like the man door isn't shutting, right? The hinge isn't catching right. Like it's bent, it's tweaked something, right? In my head, well, we'll just cut that post off real quick. We'll grab a piece of 1 1/4 square tube. We'll just weld a straight post on there. Check it out real quick. All right, good to go. Paint it orange, call it a day. Old man Brad walk over there with a torch real quick, heat up the side of it, step back. That post, as it cooled, it would just pull right back into shape, and he'd shut the door. Good to go. Throw some paint on it. Out the door it went in about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm still over there trying to pull the material off the rack. Like, and he'd let me. That was thinking he'd let me do it.
He'd let you run over there. And
oh, he
make
would.
An ass out of yourself.
He would. He'd let me run right over to that material rack. Start pulling metal down. I'm measuring. I'm setting up the bandsaw and everything to come down. And he's over there. He's looking at me, smiling. I get it cut. I see him over there. He's painting the side of it already. I'm like, this fucking guy. He used to do that with me all the time. I would always, and that comes back to me not wanting to work on old rusty stuff. Mm-hmm. I was all about, just cut it off. We'll build a new one.
Yeah, we'll just build a new one.
We'll build a new one.
Easier, cheaper, faster.
Yeah, no,
cleaner weld.
Yeah,
weld's gonna look better when I get done.
No, screw that.
Yeah.
No, we're just gonna. He used to take the baskets get smashed up, right? Like the man basket. You worked in him doing iron work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like
I've lifted a lot of beams. I mean, I've used.
I've used
a lot of man lifts back in my day.
I've lifted a lot of. That's why I had to go back and fix them all. It's because a bunch of you guys out there screwing up my baskets. Yeah. No, I remember.
As charged.
Oh, my favorite. They come back. I'd see all the welding rods in the bottom of the basket, and the basket's all tore up. I'm like, these fucking guys.
Fucking welders.
Fucking welders. As I'm picking out my welder to start working, and they go up and like they're just tore up, and I'm thinking. Like I said, first thought is like, dude, we'll just cut all this off. He watched this. I have a video of this one, pictures of it too. One of our drivers was he was picking up a machine and he took it off the truck, set it down, and it was just sitting there. And a guy came by in a bulldozer and hit it, right? Just crushed the basket basically, right? He's like, oh shit. Brings it back to the shop because. Company I work for, they didn't do like mobile. They didn't like their service trucks weren't like the big service trucks. They just had like 350s with some toolboxes on them. So it comes back to the shop and I'm looking at it and I start grabbing material. I'm taking measurements. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm going to get to use the bender. I'm going to build all this stuff. Oh
basket.
Man, I'm pumped, right? Brad starts over there and he starts with a torch and a sledgehammer and starts just and a porta power and some
some ratchet straps.
Bar clamps. We got some bar clamps. We're a little higher up, right? And he probably worked on it for about 3 hours. By the time he was done, you would have never known like a big ass cat bulldozer had backed into this thing. It was perfectly straight. And that's when I was like, when stuff would come in, it's when we start just sitting there and like, I'm just going to stand next to you.
Sit back and watch.
And that was my favorite thing when them old guys would start getting together in that shop and they'd start just kind of like drinking coffee and like bullshitting and talking, like just listen.
You think they're fucking off.
You think they're fucking off. They're really fixing shit and like making plans to get stuff done. And if you just got to listen to what they're talking about and
it'll take half the time of what you're planning on doing.
Oh, I'm over here thinking that I'm going to build a man basket in 3 hours. And like, no, that's an all-day job, like to build one of them, 200 pieces. But, that's, them kids coming out of school, man, they just got to listen. And even older people like myself, like I was 25, like I thought I knew more than what I really did, and it took a little bit of like, no, shut the fuck up, Kyle. Yeah. Like, what do you
keep your mouth shut? Keep your ears open.
That's it. Just put your head down.
Pay attention.
Listen. Just pay attention. I had that big sticker on the windshield of my truck for a while. I don't know if you remember that. The big pay attention sticker across the windshield.
Oh yeah, that was like some fucking truck club you were part of or something.
No, it was a buddy of mine. He did BMX. He started a little like t-shirt company. It was a little BMX thing.
That's right.
People used to give me a bunch of shit for that, but I did pay attention.
Yeah,
and, it helped.
No, that definitely helps.
Yep. And that's you're talking about kids coming out of welding school. Like just keep your ears open. Pick up the little things. Do the little things 110%. Be the guy who sweeps the floor. Make sure it's the cleanest floor you've ever seen, and you'll eventually get where you want to be. But you just can't give up on the process.
No.
And I think a lot of people, especially like dealing with the kids that I deal with, man, they're so quick to bail when stuff isn't going.
They give up quick.
They're like, I don't want to. So we had a part of one of the duties in our shop. We do stainless polishing, right? So taking bare stainless, bringing it to a mirror. It's a pain in the ass. It is not something.
It's a process.
It is. You start with like 100 grit sandpaper and you work all the way to 1,000, and then you take it to a buff wheel and you gotta. I mean, it's a process. And so we hire people in that they want to be in the metal industry. They like, I want to work in a fab shop or a weld shop. Hey, we're gonna start you on the polish table, especially guys who have no experience, right? Like I'm gonna put you on the polish table and let's see how, like, what's your attention to detail? Like are you willing to put in the effort to make it a mirror, like a true mirror? And it really weeds out the people who don't want to truly be there. We joke all the time. I won't say his name, but he actually left to make popsicles. Yeah. That's a new one, right? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go. I
got nothing for that.
I don't like this anymore.
Freeze flavored water.
I'm gonna go make popsicles in a different state. I'm out of here. It's like, wow, this job sucks that bad
Alaska.
that you want to go make popsicles instead of polished metal. But when he came in, he wanted to be in the metal industry, but you have to be able to put in that work and have that drive. If you don't have that, you're gonna fail. Great example is another kid who works in the shop now. I will say this kid, his name's Noah. Great kid. He started on the polish table. That's his whole job, was polishing metal. Now he runs aluminum MIG, steel MIG. He's in charge of building. He's a big part of the stair production that we do. And he also double times with our steel crew out there. He just helps weld out, just get shit done. But he put his time in. He showed up knowing nothing, no weld knowledge, just wanted to be in a metal shop, wanted to work there. And so stuck him somewhere that, let's see what he did. And even to this day, if I need something polished, like polished A1, like perfect, I'll go pull him off whatever job he's doing because we need him.
Yeah.
Because there's no, he polishes better than anybody else, but because he sat there for 4 months, 6 months before we even put a welding gun in his hand. And as soon as we did, like, his eyes lit up. Now I follow him on Snapchat, and I see he's always posting his welds, but that makes me feel good because he's like proud of what he's doing. He's excited to be there.
He's put in the work. No doubt. I mean, he's got every right to be proud.
I would be proud. I'm proud to watch him. He gets so excited when I'm like, hey man, I need you to get out there and weld all this steel up real quick, and he runs out there, and it's just great to see that. That reminds me of like the passion that I had getting into it. So it's just, you get what you give, mm-hmm. right? And to see that, I mean, it's one of the most fulfilling things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love seeing that. Like, you see that aha or that eureka moment in somebody's eyes when it clicks, when they finally get it. That's the cool thing. I mean, like, that's why I got up and out of bed every day, just to see that aha moment and all the, like, like when you learn a new process and it catches on, like, you've put in the hard work, you've put in the time, and then everything finally comes together. Yeah. And then you see that eureka moment in their eyes. They're like, oh, I got it. And you got it. It didn't happen by luck. It was hard work, effort, determination, You
just stuck
passion,
with it.
You stuck with it, and you got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Stainless TIG was my kryptonite for a long time. I just couldn't.
I remember.
I could not get that, man. It drove me up a wall to the point where I got discouraged. I didn't do it for years. Like, people would ask me to do it, and I'd tell them I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to do it. It's just not my cup of tea. And when we ended up in our situation that we were in at the shop that I'm at now, we had a big stainless job come through. I mean, we were doing, it was 1/4-inch thick stainless plates that all got V-grooved and butt welded to each other. And they were these like big stainless frames that then had stainless mesh frames welded. It was months of stainless work, right? And it was only me and this other guy, Alex, I told you about earlier, who were doing steel TIG work stainless steel TIG work. And I couldn't say no. What am I going to, like, there's no one else here to do it. Like, step up and do it, figure it out. And I went home and I had all my stuff from running my business still. And I'd go home after work and I would break out my TIG stuff, and I would just an hour here, just TIG it a little bit. I'd go watch YouTube videos, like trying to figure out, like, what am I doing wrong? Because in school, you remember, like, it was terrible. It was absolutely, like, it was embarrassing, right? Like, what, I got to figure this out. Like, and I started with Alex was cool because he knew the process better than I did. And he kind of showed me some stuff, like, on the job while we were there. And next thing I know, like, I'm walking the cup, like, down across, like, I mean, laying beautiful welds. But I mean, it was because you put in the effort to get there.
Extra effort outside of what was required. You went home and put on a hood and brought all your shit out and practiced.
If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to reach the goal that, you're not going to sit in my seat unless you're willing to go home and outwork me. And that's a personal example, but that you can use that for anybody, anything,
any industry, anything in life. That's why the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, I love his fucking tagline: "Be the hardest worker in the room." No, and that's his thing. It's
you
like,
don't need to be the smartest.
Outwork me.
You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the richest or anything like that. Just you need to outwork anyone else that's around you.
Do the work.
One of the things you said when we were in school was you guys are all friends and good camaraderie, but y'all are each other's competition. When you leave these doors, you're competing against the guys next to you to get that job, to secure that spot. And that's something that never really left me, was that at the end of the day, like, it is a competition. Like, you are trying to be better than the guy next to you. And that should drive you to be the next step better.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I did a lot of sports and stuff growing up. And there's like, I raced and played football and stuff like that. And it's just, competition never left me. So to be in an industry where you are able to put a product out that might be better than someone else's product is a driving factor.
Yeah, you still got that winner's mentality.
Absolutely. Like, where can this looks like this. Well, how can I make it look better than that guy? That guy just beat me. Well, I don't want to be second again. Like, I want to be first. I don't, old Ricky Bobby quote, right?
Yeah.
Like, you ain't first, you're last.
You're last.
Right? So, like, step it up and become that guy. And you can do that in any shop. It doesn't matter what your industry is. Just put more work into the guy next to you. Not that you have to be disrespectful about it. You don't need to, like, sit there and beat your chest and say, I'm better than you and, I'm this and that. But go home and figure out what you're doing wrong and where you can get better. Or, like, my apprentice who just left for the oil field, like, on your break, instead of going and sitting in your truck and smoking cigarettes and, taking a nap, like, go find a process that you're not good at and, like, see how many welds you can get in before, your whistle blows and you got to go back to the real life.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, I think, just falls on
deaf ears a lot of times.
It really does. It really does. And people they do it maybe 2 or 3 times. They don't see a progress. They're like, oh, they didn't notice I was working over here. Like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm just gonna go, take my time.
Yeah.
That's fine. Go take your time. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not breaking the rules, but you get what you give. You get into it, or you get out of it what you put into it.
100%.
That's a prime example. And if you're willing to go home and do more, if you're willing to sit on your breaks and learn, if you're willing to sit on YouTube and learn a process or whatever it is, if you're willing to do that, I promise you, it is going to benefit you in the long run. Somehow.
It's going to put you leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. It's going to put you, again, on a fast track.
Especially from the people who don't care.
Mm-hmm.
The people who show up for a paycheck every day.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into, like, my foreman position, that's one thing that I would do is kind of like go above and beyond. And it wasn't like they were like, hey, we need you to start doing, pushing work. We see potential in you, this, that, and the other thing. And one of the areas that I struggled in was reading blueprints. And so I remember, we didn't really have break time. We'd have like an hour lunch. So instead of doing like a 15-minute break in the morning and 15 in the afternoon and 30-minute, like they just combine it, 1 hour lunch. That's what I'd do. I'd take my prints and I would just go study them from the project that we're working on right now. Take everything out and look at it and like just start teaching myself how to read prints. And I had like the foreman that I was working with at the time. He would kind of like show me shit here and there and kind of help guide me through that. But then I would come home at night and I would do the same thing. And I'd be sitting at the kitchen table, like just fucking paperwork everywhere. And my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to teach myself how to read these blueprints. I'm learning how to do this stuff. And she's like, well, you're not getting paid. And I was like, no, but the work that I'm putting in right now is going to pay off later on down the road. Very similar to what you're doing, like with the stainless steel in your garage and, like kind of teaching yourself again how to do that and finding different resources outside of working hours. It paid off, so like no matter what you're doing at work, like if you don't know how to do something and you want to get better, put in the time on your break, on your lunch, when you get home from work. A lot of people call that like brown nosing or ass kissing. It's not. Like I'm going above and beyond because I want more out of life. I want to do more things. I don't want to be in the same situation I am right now. I'm not comfortable where I'm at right now. I want to continue to grow. And the only way to do that is to like force yourself into doing shit that nobody else wants to do. Like how many people are going home reading fucking prints or practicing how to weld in their garage, or at the coffee table or your dinner table or whatever? Like how many people are doing that after work or on their break or during lunch to better themselves later on? A lot of people they want to do the bare minimum. I want to get in there, put in my 8 and hit the gate, and you can't, that's good for some people. It was never good for me.
It really shows the drive and motivation of people. If you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to put in the extra work, then you're not willing to you're almost quitting on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're not giving yourself the opportunity to grow.
You're not reaching your full potential.
Right. You're good at what you do, but if you're, and it's like, so like, let's think back when you're in school, right? You're in elementary school or middle school, high school, whatever it is. And you are a great student from the time the bell rings to the time the bell's over, but you never do your homework. It doesn't matter what you're going to fail that class or whatever it is because you're not doing the other things that are expected from you. So that's like, that's where it gets instilled, right? Like you go home and you do your homework because that's to see if you're willing to put in the effort and the time on the back end to succeed when it counts, right? And, these people, in any industry who work a little harder, take the extra step, do the extra little thing. That's what matters. That's what will get you where you want to be. Like you said, the full potential. Like you can't quit on yourself after 8 hours of work and then think that there's nothing else for you to do. You can't just go home and crack a beer and say, "Hey, I had a great day today."
Yeah, fuck it.
I'm
See you on the next one.
Yep, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm just gonna clear out, and whatever happens tomorrow happens, and we just roll on. You're gonna end up in a situation where you almost don't even remember what you did the first,
Yeah. Because don't get me wrong. Like I love coming home and like kicking my feet up and saying, you know what, work is on hold till 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to sit back and have a beer, but it can't be every night.
It can't be every night.
Not if you want to be better. Not if you want to change your situation.
If you're in the grind mode, and if you're in if you are in the mind state of I am going to achieve X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be my dream is to have this, and this requires motivation and time and effort in every aspect, then yeah, drink a beer, but then put that beer down and go do, whatever it is that's going to make you better. Like you think, like, I don't know, think of like whatever famous sports athlete you want to think of. Like they didn't get to that point because they showed up, they practiced and then showed up at the games and played well. Like I would almost guarantee you that they had their entire life was dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And I know, we're all blue collar, right? We all, everyone in this industry is pretty much like the same. Like we have interest outside of welding and fabrication and stuff. And we want to do that, But what level do you want to do that to? Right? Do you want to have nice toys and have nice things? And do you want the jacked up side by side with the, the 8-inch portals and everything on it? Well, that costs, $40,000-$50,000. How are you going to get that? You're not going to get that clocking in at 8 and clocking out at 3 and going home every day and, calling it a day and this and that. You got to put in the effort and you got to put in the work to reach whatever the goal is, whether it is a side by side or a house or a job title or position. It's about the effort and it's about the work. And if you don't have it, then you can't be mad at anyone else but yourself because you're not putting in the work for it.
Yeah, and those people that see what other people's have or that other people have, they don't see the work that goes in behind it. So that's where they get all pissy. They're like, "Why can't I have that?" Well, because that person's doing the shit that you don't want to do.
Right.
Like once you start doing the shit you don't want to do, you're gonna start getting the places you want to be.
Absolutely. You don't want to be at work for 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day, but you want the benefits from being at work for 10 or 12 hours a day, right? And then that adds up. And yeah, it sucks. It's no fun. No one wants to do that. I mean, I got a couple friends that have gone and done like the oil field stuff, right? Where not necessarily pipeline welding, but just working in the oil field. And like their days are 14, 16-hour days. And they did it for 5 years. And because I know what they did and I see the life that they have now, they earned that life.
Yeah.
Right. They put in those days for 5 years and have a beautiful house and kids and toys and everything. But that's because they sacrificed for that. If you aren't willing to sacrifice, you're not willing to gain.
Exactly.
That's just how it works. That's real life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Comes
what
back
it
down
is.
to work ethics.
Absolutely.
Well, shit, man, it's been fucking awesome catching back up.
This has been so much fun.
I can't believe 1 week it'll be 8 years.
Yeah, eight full years since
you walked through the doors.
Shoot,
Well, actually,
man.
yeah, since you walked through the door.
Yeah, fucking all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, only for you to kick my Gatorade and throw my phone out the window one day.
Well, looks like it paid off.
Guaranteed, it was the greatest thing you could have done.
No regrets.
Greatest thing you could have done, man. It was a blessing walking in and having you as an instructor of all people. I could have ended up with anybody. And to have it be you has been truly great. And I've liked to see your journey as well, like welding instructor to the welding instructor, right? Like being that guy, like who is just crushed it beyond anything that I didn't know who you were then, but I bet more people know your name now all over this country than
I'm still nobody now.
You got a lot going on for you, man. You really do. I love to see it, and I love to see your growth, dude. It's been fun.
Appreciate it, man. Likewise, it's been. Like I said, it's been fucking great.
We'll have to do a combined episode with like me and Fisher and Colin one day.
Oh, that'll be a trip. Yeah, I'll get some more microphones. We'll do this whole thing.
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. Let Fisher sit here. He's got all kinds of good stories.
Oh yeah,
he's got a better memory than I do. So,
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I've caught up with him a couple times. But
have you?
Yeah. I've been out to that shop he was working at. But
did you stop? Yeah. Oh, that's right. You went and did the his weld test.
Yeah, I did some weld tests and stuff out there.
Yeah. You remember? I worked out there for a little bit. That was it's interesting.
It's an interesting shop.
Interesting thing. Fisher ran that thing basically by himself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to do something. We'll catch up, get everybody back together. It'd be kind of neat to see where everybody's.
It would be.
Everybody's at, what they're doing.
It would be. That'd be a lot of fun, man.
Well, cool.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation between Kyle and I. If you're an instructor, you can see that what you say in the classroom and the lab matter. You're making an impact even if you don't realize it. If you're a student or new to the industry, you can see that hard work pays off and work ethics and attitude are the keys to success. If you've been in the industry for any amount of time, I'm sure you can relate to a lot of the stories and situations we discussed in this episode. Again, thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast downloader app so you never miss an episode. I got a lot coming out very soon, and I'll release new episodes every Monday, and I'm sure there's going to be some bonus episodes sprinkled in this year as well. Hope you all have a kick-ass rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.